Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not
You will bring the jury.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy
They
there.
got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case. Dati mihi Anglican, please, verbis Latino.
That's literally not true.
I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
Is that correct?
Oh, for Trump's sake.
Good morning. Good Thursday podcast morning. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. It's good to have you all here. Had a great morning. I apologize. Only the members know this. You know YouTube's pushing really hard in this class I'm in with them to get me to do 10 members only streams or something. I just figured out that I can do a members only post. Like I can just post a picture and call it members only, and I think that counts. So it's like a cheat code. So 10 members only pictures coming. This morning, my oldest son at home was going to drive my next son to a class in the morning, and he woke up, wasn't feeling very good. So I woke up and decided to drive him. And my daughter wants to come with me, and we after we dropped him off at the class, I'm like, okay, we've got like an hour to kill. What can you do in Greenville early in the morning with an hour to kill? And the answer is nothing fun, but you can go to IHOP, and we did. So I took my daughter to IHOP. This is the second time in my life that I've been to IHOP, and it's the first time my daughter's ever been to a sit-down restaurant where the waiter comes over and orders. You order from the waiter. She has never, I don't know how she got to be, the roughly teenage years without ever. We just don't eat out much. We just don't. But took her to IHOP, and she ordered a waffle with fries, like French fries, and a chocolate milk. And I ordered an omelet with a stack of pancakes with water. And they came out and said, "I'm sorry, we're out of chocolate milk. And do you want something else?" And she said, "How about an Oreo milkshake?" And they gave us the Oreo milkshake for free, which was awesome. So big tip. Would have paid for the Oreo milkshake, but thank you, IHOP. We're going to sing you extra loud today on the birthday song. All right, how's everyone doing this morning? Welcome to one and all. I hope you're well rested, and up for a couple more hours of closing arguments. No, I don't think it's going to be very long. I think an hour. Can we do that? Can we do one more hour of closing arguments? Hopefully he doesn't have to recap everything he did yesterday to get us caught up. All right, shout out to Lindsay Ross's daughter. Have a good day at school. Hey, Lindsay Ross's daughter, enjoy school today. Do well. While we're doing shout outs as well, let me go ahead. Oh, I should have put this on the screen. Lindsay Ross's daughter. Hello. While we're doing shout outs, real government name, congratulations. You were first in chat today. And because of that, we're going to punish your promptness with a sentence to beat all sentences, actually. We are going to send it to internet ownership. Everything IP related worldwide is your responsibility. There's really no benefit to this, come to think of it. It's just work. It's just added responsibility. There's no pay either, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So you are the winner, or should we say the loser. Yes. Good morning, one and all. We do have a couple birthdays today, and thank you, Amber, for bringing this list to us. We have a little bit salty, Christina, and Nana Deb, all who's celebrating birthdays today. Hopefully you get a chance to go to IHOP today and get some free pancakes if they do that. I should have asked while I was there. This is only the second time I've been in an IHOP in my life. It's good both times. I mean, I have no reason to not go to IHOP. I just don't have a reason to go to IHOP is the thing. So we're going to sing happy birthday to a little bit salty Christina and Nana Deb. Everyone, by we, I mean all of us, wherever you are, stand up, take a deep breath, shoulders back, project your voice to the back of the room, blend your voice with your neighbor, and warm up with me if you will. That was wrong sounding. La 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 la. There we go. That's the right soundbite. All right, we're going to sing happy birthday to a little bit salty Christina and Nana Deb. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, a little bit salty Christina and Nana Deb. Happy birthday to you. Simple but beautiful. A little bit salty Christina and Nana Deb. Happy birthday. There are many wonderful days, but today's your special day. And I realize there are a million places you could have been and a million people you could have celebrated with, but you chose to be here with us. The privilege, pleasure, the honor, the joy is ours. Hopefully we can turn that joy back to you and make your day just a little more special. Begin by helping yourself to free pancakes at Denny's, IHOP, Village Inn, Waffle House, McDonald's, Tammy Dunlop's House, Andy's Grill, Bob Evans, and Cracker Barrel. First try. I feel like I missed something. I'll tell you, it's sort of a somber morning as well. The last time I went to IHOP was when I went to a former coworker's house who was battling late-stage cancer, and she was basically under orders to not go anywhere because she wasn't steady. She would fall and hurt herself. And she called me and said, I can't do this. Can you please come take me to IHOP? And I drove to her house and picked her up and took her to IHOP. It was the first time I'd ever been. And it was the last time she went. But big shout out to IHOP. Some good food. Drum solo for the finish. Here we go. All right. We've got a couple things to talk about this morning as we are getting things going. First of all, the Nancy Guthrie investigation. I want to give you a couple updates before we get into court, which will start soon enough. We'll be there. Nancy Guthrie, big news yesterday. Obviously, we're still hoping that they get some evidence and find where she is and she's able to be returned home. But obviously, the more time that passes, the thinner that hope becomes. But yesterday they found some gloves. They found some black gloves, and they appear to match the type of gloves that were seen on the people in the person or people in the video. And they're doing DNA testing on those gloves. And you guys know that they can test, they can swab. They're going to swab everything. Okay, they're not going to be like, oh, we swabbed one of the fingers, nothing there. They're going to swab the daylights out of those gloves. If there is a piece of DNA, one single strand of DNA, they're going to find it, and they're going to replicate it 1 billion times over, and that's going to be turned in. So there could be DNA on the outside, there could be DNA on the inside, and it's also possible that these gloves were layered, and there could be nothing on them. So we're hopeful that turns something up. Also, we know that the FBI has done all their homework on the bags, the clothes, every item that was visible in there. They're trying to source, and they believe they can go back and find out who bought what, or at least put together a database of where they were purchased. If the backpack was from Walmart, they can subpoena Walmart and say, hey, tell us all the places, all the people that bought these, all the transactions that bought one of these backpacks, and they can go back and try to piece things together. Obviously, if they pick things up at like a Goodwill, it's going to be a little bit harder, but if they bought them new, there's a chance that we might be able to get some clues. At least it's a massive database. It's a big data undertaking, but it's going to be good. His closing is going to be finished today. Super duper Chris J. I wish I could resoundly say yes, but I just don't know. I just don't know. The judges said, you've got till March 20th. Please don't take any longer. Yes, March 20th. That's over a month away. It's not going to take that long. But I did not expect them to go all day yesterday. We are 2 hours and 22 minutes into defense, or the state's closing, which is the last one. Okay, it goes defense first and then state here in New Jersey. I just called IHOP and they still do pancakes on your birthday. Wonderful. Plus, on March 3rd, by the way, is Pancake Day. It's like National Pancake Day in the United States. So I think you can get a stack of flapjacks for free, even if it's not your birthday then. Virginia native, loved my 38 years of the FBI. They're great. They do some great work. I will say, though, there might be some history between the local law enforcement and the FBI in this area of Arizona, where things weren't always on the up and up, apparently, according to some of the information that's been sort of dug up. There were allegations of corruption and investigation where the FBI was looking into the police department. There might be some hard feelings between the two, and that might have accounted for some of the friction that existed early in this investigation. Let's see. Anyway, good stuff. Just to be clear, 100% clear, it is not my birthday today. It is not my birthday. When I posted a members only picture of my breakfast, which I guess I can show you all. I'm not going to show the one with my daughter in it, but there we go. All right. This is it right here. This is breakfast. Oh, you don't want to see that message. That's mod chat. I have to turn that off for a second. Sorry, mod chat. I almost outed you. Good thing it was blurry. Okay, I have to turn that off. Put that there and zoom in. So I had a big steak omelet with a stack of pancakes, which was delicious. It was really, really yummy. Where are we? We're back in court. Okay. Not my birthday. I just went because my daughter had never been, and I just realized, I asked her, and she said she's never been to a restaurant. She's like, what makes it a restaurant? I said, oh, we're going. We're going for sure. I am a March birthday, so I'm sort of getting warmed up for the free pancake day on March 24th is when I'm going to celebrate that, or thereabouts. I'm not sure what day that falls on. But it was delicious, and once it was served, I had like 15 minutes to eat it all. So it was like... It might have looked like a Nathan's hot dog eating contest when I was eating my omelet. I just had little time because I had to go back and pick him up. What did I say, Karate Cut, ma'am? I said a lot of things this morning. I didn't mean to be disingenuous about anything. Let's see. Reverend Beasy, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to have to put on a couple extra miles on your run today just for me, because I had a few extra calories this morning. So if you can work those off for me, that would be great. Anyway, all right, we are here now. We're ready to begin. Looks like, wait. Wait, don't tell me. Anyway, the police found gloves yesterday. They're doing some, we found some drama between police departments. Lots of new information coming out. Oh, here's the door.
All rise. The court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Mark Lemieux presiding.
Good morning. Please be seated.
Good morning.
All right. Back on the record for the State of New Jersey versus Paul Caneiro. It's indictment 19-02-0283. Can I have the appearances of counsel for the record?
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Prosecutor Nicole Wallace on behalf of the state.
Good morning, Judge Chris Decker, Assistant Prosecutor for the state.
Your Honor, Monica Mascalone on behalf of Mr. Paul Caneiro.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Caneiro. We were in the middle of the state summation, so we'll continue on with that.
No, we
now.
were at the end. We were at the end, Judge.
Can I have the back right table, please? Thank you.
We're starting right off with a PowerPoint. This is a snooze fest.
Morning.
Morning.
We left off yesterday. I think we were at the video camera 5 from 19 Oxford. So I'm going to play that with respect to Mr. Caneiro's vehicle returning back from Colts Neck. Now, we've already seen 308 Green Road, right? Down the driveway. White, Porsche Macan, black stripe, right? Passes 30 Tilden. We saw the flickering of the lights at 30 Tilden in the direction of 27 Tilden. So now, from 19 Oxford, from the rear, from a camera, as you can see here, we probably never expected to see what we saw. I mean, because when you look at the vantage point here, we're talking about a very small area, right? Where you capture just a portion of that 27 Tilton driveway. Because you remember from the daylight video, there's those trees there. But by the grace of God, we actually see that light right there. As you'll recall, remember when we saw the pictures of the garage,
We're not seeing it.
the 2 garage bays of 27 Tilden, there's 3 lights, like 3 sconces. One on the left, one in the middle between the doors, one on the right. Okay? So what we're looking at here, right here, kind of like where we saw that flash of fire previously, that's the light. Okay, so we're going to play that.
I think they could have highlighted this or something for us. There it is. There's some light. There's the light. This is the car, what, coming back at 408? Headlights off.
So now we've seen the white Porsche Macan. The one being driven by one person and one person alone. The person coming back with the jeans, with the gloves, with the scarf, with the gun, with the barrel in it, not yet out of it. He's pulled back in his own driveway. Now, when we talk about timing of the fire, remember we talked about Heather Kapp and Jonathan Harrington and when we can actually see the fire start. Now, we're going to see the video starts at 4:54. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because we know that that fire is going to start. It's now 4:56:32. And remember, these are just lights on the back of the house. Go over by the garage, right? What we're going to see, remember we have 4 top windows when we look at the daytime. We got a window over here, we got a window here, window here, a window here. And then that 4th window is right about here. The gas line and the basement window would be just barely outside of that frame.
I don't know where we're looking. Turn my picture off for a minute so we can see everything. There's fire.
There, 4:57 in about 10 seconds. We see that gas-fed fire, right? Because that basement window is right next to the gas meter. There's accelerant and the gas line, right? We got the gas from the gas can, we got the accelerant, and then we have the gas line right next to it. So we know exactly when that fire takes off, right? Because it's going to flash here, right? And then we'll see from the next video, I believe it's the next video, when we look back at the driveway, you can see the flash, and you see the flash, but then it comes down, right? So that's the initial, the emanation, the beginning of that fire at 27 Tilton. So now we're going to see the same thing, 457, from the driveway view. We're going to see that flash, and then we're going to see it come down. Running it from 4:56 and 40 seconds. You see there's obviously some activity outside here, some lights on. There we go. Move it again.
Why do you keep stopping it? You paused it. Oh, wait, now it's going. Looking for the flash, looking for the flash. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, this is going to be about 2 minutes before Mr. Caneiro pulls the Porsche Cayenne out of the garage. There, 4:57 and 10 seconds. That fire lights up the rear of 27 Tilden. We start to see Dr. Gould's back deck, right here. And here is kind of like where that tree line is, and the driveway is right here. So think about, in some ways, how lucky we got to actually capture that driveway, right? I mean, there's no way, even if he set up the cameras at Dr. Gould's, that he ever would have realized that camera is going to pick up his car at 2:07 and 4:08, and the fire started. It's just unfathomable to believe that we catch that little area here, right? See? Fire now. 4:57, 53. It flashed over for about 40 seconds, and then it subsides. Same way we saw it on camera 7, right? So now it's 4:59:50. We're looking at camera 5 again with that small area over here, right? The driveway. We're going to see the Cayenne being pulled out of the garage by Mr. Caneiro. Here we go. It's backing it out, because there's 2 cars there, right, by the one bay, and then he's got the opening by the garage, by the bay closest to Tilden Drive. So now he backs up, right, and then he pulls out forward the same way he pulled out at 2:07. So again, we're just looking at that car backing up, right? It's going to back up and essentially do a K-turn, right? It's the way you got to get out of that driveway, the way he's got to get that car out of that driveway. It's 5 o'clock and 5 seconds. The car's now heading out to Tilden. The car's going to park on Tilden Drive. And think about where that car parked on Tilden Drive, right? It actually, he pulls out. We don't see it on the video. He pulls out, and then he ultimately pulls it on the street, right in the area of Cap and Harrington's house, right? So now, Miss Cap didn't specifically tell you that was Paul Caneiro's car, but that's Paul Caneiro's car that she saw in the street between Harrington's driveway and her house. Same place it was, remember, when Chris Sorrentino's running up to the front door, hey, everybody's out of the house. Paul Caneiro's car. You just got to put it into context, because sometimes when people watch things in the dark, they don't know what they're watching. Sometimes it takes a combination of evidence to kind of put it together. They said a lot yesterday that we can't show you Paul Caneiro in the car. We can't show you Paul Caneiro in the house at 15 Willowbrook, right? We don't see him running down or out of the house at, let's say 3:42, 3:43 in the morning in Colts Neck. But the only reason we can't show you that is because of him, right? He cut the power in Colts Neck. He cut his own cameras. So when we talk about did they find houses to the west on Tilden Drive, and they didn't look or they didn't document he didn't show you any cameras from the west side of Tilden, the other way out, right? You saw all those maps and photos and everything. But like, any camera that would have been over there, that wasn't, would have shown us, likely nothing, because nobody goes that way. But it would have showed you the same exact things that you could have saw from the 4 cameras outside of 27 Tilden Drive. Like, it's a little hard to understand how we can be blamed for not having more footage when the best footage, the best evidence would have been his own cameras that he chose to shut off. And the only reason, ladies and gentlemen, you shut those cameras off is because you don't want anyone to see what you're about to do, what you did, and what you did after you did. It's extremely telling. There is no good reason, zero, in this world why somebody shuts off their cameras at 1:28 and 1:31 and then leaves the house for 2 hours in the middle of the night. His car, he's driving. You know, we talk about being framed, right? And all the things that we didn't find. And we talked about how no matter who did it.
Sorry, I'm here. I was just
watching. They didn't leave a lot of evidence in the car, right? In the Porsche Macan. Like, there's no blood except for the residue or the odor that's detected by the canine, Creed. Whoever was in that car, and I would submit to you that there is no doubt in this world that it was Mr. Caneiro. But the one little piece of evidence that was left in there that wouldn't have been all that noticeable, actually, Lieutenant Catalona didn't even seize it the first day when he searched the car. Remember when he takes the photos on the driveway? This was found the next day. It's a little piece of a black nitrile glove. Okay? Like, okay. Right? Consistent with the burnt gloves by the gas can, right? Consistent with all these gloves here. It's actually not that many, it's 6. But like, if you're trying to frame someone, you're trying to set someone up, first of all, I said it already, you're probably going to try to leave some blood in that car, right? I mean, it makes sense. You're probably going to leave the barrel in the gun. It makes sense. You're probably going to put the backpack in the murder car, not in your wife's car. But if you're trying to set someone up, this is the best you can do. Leave a little piece of a broken glove, probably from when he tore it off and threw it in the back of the car, in the storage area, exactly where K9 Creed hit. I mean, that's not getting set up, ladies and gentlemen. That's just trying your best to not be sloppy, but still being just a little bit sloppy because of what he just did and the effect. No matter what you think of Mr. Caneiro, the effect that what he did to those little kids had to have had on him. Had to have. Now again, just point of reference. Maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's not. But the car pulling out at 207 here, out of the driveway, pulls out exactly the same way that he pulled. He pulled the Cayenne out at 5 o'clock. Maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's not. It's just another little thing that adds up with the gloves and the DNA.
They back up the same?
And the camera's being on.
That's weak.
And the camera's actually being on, showing you turning them off, right? I mean, that's important. Now, we talk about some of the defense witnesses, particularly now we referenced the cameras, so let's talk about Dr. Gould here, okay? Dr. Gould, obviously friends with Mr. Caneiro. He told you that Mr. Caneiro, which you knew already, he's tech savvy, that's what he does for a living. He talked about, helping out with electricity and helping the guy who did the wiring with the lights and helping Keith out and all the work that Paul did at Keith's house. All the things that Keith relied upon, and part of the reason why he's collecting that salary from Square One and EcoStar. He told you about Paul being a gunsmith, and I'm not going to belabor that, I'm not going to reiterate the fact that I told you that he owned these guns lawfully. We're not asking you to hold that against him. But there's a reason you heard about the guns, because
he's
Dr. Gould told you he can take them apart. He's a gunsmith, he cleans them, he does all this stuff. Like, that's exactly consistent with bop, 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 bop.
Pointed right at the judge. I take that as a threat.
Bop. Even Dr. Gould eventually got curious, right? He eventually got curious. I asked him, did you watch him before you gave the videos, before you gave them to the police? And he had it. But at some point, he actually had to bring him back because not all the footage was on him, so he actually had to bring it back. I think it was Detective Melody. But I asked him, did you eventually watch it? And he was like, yeah. And he even saw Paul leaving, 2 a.m., Paul returning at 4 a.m. And I asked him, because we were looking at a photo, right? I showed him the photo of Sophia and Jesse and Jennifer and Keith. And I asked him about Keith's hair, and I asked him about Paul, who's got hair. Keith was bald. And then I asked him about Corey, just because, why not, right? Brought up Corey, right? They want to talk about Corey. What's Corey look like? We'll talk about why that's important later. I shouldn't have to prove that to you, ladies and gentlemen. He has nothing to do with this. Nothing.
Objection.
Come on up. You know what? It's overruled. It's definitely not an objectionable thing. Go ahead.
Whoa.
Again,
Corey
all
had
this
nothing
goes
to do
to
with
the fact is that they told you Mr. Caneiro was cooperative, how he talked to the police at the scene, and he was spoken to by several of the Ocean patrolmen. We're really just trying to figure out what happened. Why is there a fire here? We're just trying to figure it out. And, he's telling them that he wakes up, he's sleeping, right? He's talking about, and even his daughter said it, that he was upstairs all night, not really being the family man that he was described as. He's just up in his bedroom from, 4:30 that day until all of a sudden a fire he wakes up to. It's just all inconsistent with the evidence that you're hearing in this case.
Regina, thank you very much for 5 gifted memberships.
Now, when we talk about the background, the financial motive, the build-up with Paul and Keith, again, I'm not standing here saying that it should have been enough, right? Murder doesn't always or rarely make sense. But, did we follow the evidence or did we ignore evidence? Did we try to see the communications, between Paul and Keith? Did we just stop after we heard that devastating phone call between Keith and Paul at 6:05 p.m. on November 19th, 2018? About 9 hours before the murder? No. You heard from Detective Migliosi. He read these messages. And I'm not going to read them all for you. I believe you'll have them. But we need to understand kind of where this all starts. And you've all heard about April 2018. A little hard to read here. But what we're seeing is April 11th. Wednesday, April 11th, 2018. And this is basically Paul getting caught stealing from the trust, right? Keith was obviously trying to inquire. You can see Mr. Artigas and Mr. Weinstein are included because they're trying to figure it out. Yes.
Thanks, Ladybug's mom.
And it's true.
Thank you.
There were times when the trust was not funded properly, right? There are times with businesses where maybe Keith didn't have the ability to throw $7,800 a quarter to the trust account. That happened. But what they didn't say to you is that, and I said it yesterday, he's got one job as the trustee. One job. This is not like managing real estate assets and all this kind of stuff. He's got a life insurance policy. Pay the premium. That's all he had to do. And listen, if Keith doesn't fund it, like in past years, if he doesn't give the $7,800 that quarter to the TD trust account, then no one is blaming Mr. Caneiro for not, no one is saying he has to pay it out of his own pocket. That's not the point. It's just, when the money comes to the TD trust account, that bank account, Just click transfer. Like, think he can handle that. He knows his password. You heard it yesterday. The only time he ever forgot his password of the 19 times when he transferred the money, not to Canada Life, but to himself, he never forgot his password, right? Never. It's like shutting off your cameras. It's like, Keith, I don't remember my password. Why do you think Keith's so frustrated? Keith's like, I'll even log in, just give me the password. But he can't give him the password. Take it for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth. But Keith wanted to know where the hell the money was. And he couldn't get an answer. And he said, I don't know exactly what Mr. Paul Caneiro was saying on the other end, but we know by context that Keith is saying, you got 2 hours, let me know. You know, he's trying to be a little bit sympathetic, bless you. He's trying to be a little bit like flexible, right? Despite the months and months of thefts and where the hell is the money? He's giving him 2 hours. And he says, 8 o'clock, Paul. But you never heard anything about any other communication, right? There's no other communication in this world ever for the rest of time except for Keith texting Paul at 3:14 through 3:18 because despite his anger and his frustration, justifiable frustration and anger, he still needs Paul. But here, what's interesting about this is like, it's an admission that I took the money, right? It's an admission. Remember he says I selected the wrong payee. He says it went to my daughter's student loans or whatever. Like, Paul's admitting that he stole from his brother, right? Sorry for all the confusion. I've had my head up my ass. But he's still not accepting responsibility, right? He's still saying that I accidentally took your money. I sent it to the wrong page. Now, we know that's not true, right? Because you saw the bank records. Detective Bassender came in here at length and testified about all this stuff. He didn't select the wrong page. He paid himself. And there's a lot of talk about him paying it back and all that stuff, but like, the reality is he didn't pay it back. It just went to the business, and then Keith transferred it back to the trust account, and then he took it. Because you will hear, if you want to call it paying back, if you want to say he reimbursed, whatever, were there times when he stole in the past and reimbursed? Sure. Does it make it right? I mean, he didn't tell Keith he was stealing before he paid it back. He didn't ask the beneficiaries, Jen, Jesse, and Sophia, obviously not Jesse and Sophia, but he didn't tell Jen, hey, I'm taking a loan, because that's what he would have needed to do, according to Mr. Cardenas, in order to take a loan. These are not loans. It's just straight up theft. And again, I said it yesterday, but when the judge ultimately charges you on the law and he reads to you about theft and misappropriation, and on the verdict sheet you're going to have some choices on theft, the allegation is $78,000. But playing with the money and looking at certain things and where certain things went in a family business, we're going to ask you to find between $500,000 and $75,000, not above $75,000. That's absolutely no issue whatsoever. But it's not
Rebecca, thank you very much for 37 months. OG.
Think about 1999. Keith Caneiro decides, I want to create an irrevocable trust. And in order to do that, you need a trustee, right? And it's kind of ironic that it's so obvious what a trustee is, right? It's someone that you trust with your money and with the obligation of doing these things. But again, just transfer the money. Just click transfer. Send an e-bill or whatever the hell you have to do at TD Bank. But he knows how to do it because he's done it in the past. He knows how to transfer money because he transfers it to the TD Bank trust account to himself. It's not that complicated. But that trust ultimately, over time, it eroded. It started to go in a lot of different directions. And ultimately, you saw that trust was gone as of 6 o'clock on November 19th. But we need to look a little further. Look at the messages. And here is essentially, this is just like it's the same time, April 11, 2018. It's just a little more of a complete message, and it's maybe a little more of a direct message to Paul, or from Paul to Keith. And he says, what they're talking about is, yes, I went to bed early, I was shot, I figured out why there are payments missing. I selected the wrong payee from my list and made them to Pacific Lending, the servicer for student loans, instead of Pacific Life. Now, you saw the bank records and the summaries and the charts. That's not true. What he did was he made them to himself. He's just telling Keith that I made a mistake instead of saying I stole from you. I mean, he says, I changed the name of the account to the trust, so this will not happen again while this account is still open. Well, he had Caneiro Life in his bill pay for TD Bank a long time before April 11, 2018. We go on. I'm selling off some of my investments today, and once the transfer is completed, I will make a single payment plus interest to the trust policy. I'm sorry about that, and we'll make it right. Let me know when you create a new trust account with Bonnie, that's Jennifer's sister, so we can set up the direct deposit from payroll. I can pay the balance of the existing trust account and then close it. I didn't sleep most of the night trying to sort this out. There's nothing to sort out. He stole from his brother. That's what you need to sort out. Is it bothering him? I don't know. I don't know. It didn't bother him enough that, let's just assume they're correct, that he paid the money back in April, at the end of April. Let's just assume that's not like just a circular payment and not a reimbursement. Or let's assume it's a reimbursement. The reality, though, is, as you're going to see in the next couple slides, and you heard the testimony, obviously you've all been paying attention. That has been very clear. Is that after this mishap, after I had my head up my ass, I'm going to make it right, etc., 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 what he does is makes exactly 0 payments to Caneiro Life for the rest of 2019. What he does is just continue to take, culminating with the last theft, the last transfer from the trust account to himself on November 19th, 2018. Remorse? No. Just like preservation, like, let me just get Keith off my back for a little while, right? He's stupid. That's really what he's saying. Keith's not going to figure it out because he can't access the trust account, because that's the way it's supposed to be. It's really, Keith, I'm sorry. Keith was upset about all this, but sorry, Keith. Unfortunately, you don't have control anymore. He's got control. But it doesn't mean he can steal. It doesn't mean he can commingle. It doesn't mean he can take loans without the beneficiary's consent. Okay? He's talking about them changing the beneficiary. You heard some of that stuff.
The intensity of the judge is epic.
There was some talk about making Bonnie the trustee. I'm sure Keith wishes that actually happened, but it may not have been as easy as Mr. Cardenas said to you. Well, it's not that easy. So it never happened. I mean, I wish it did, because maybe we wouldn't be here. Okay? It didn't happen, but he knew that Keith was kind of done. But he continues. Paid nothing back. Doesn't make another transfer to Caneiro Life ever in the history of the world. He tries now to cover his tracks.
The history of the world.
By doctoring the bank records. Which, let's just remember this as we talked about thematically yesterday about how investigations work. Like, we're talking about bank records here that, like, we don't get, like, immediately, right? We don't just, like, go, hey, there's a trust account. Give me the bank records. What happens is the detectives that are investigating this, Detective Bassiter, who was doing the financial investigation, Detective Petrozzillo, and Detective Zerillo, they met with Steve Weinstein, right? He's the accountant for Paul, he's the accountant for Keith, he's the accountant for the businesses, and ultimately they sit down, and Weinstein's saying, hey, Paul would send me the bank records, right, like an accountant. Because remember, part of the trust is like, there's like gift tax implications, and Weinstein said, I got to get the records so I can, because Keith was able to write, I don't understand it all. I'm not going to claim to. But basically, Keith had to account for gift payments. Basically, the transfer of the payroll he's allowed to account for it with the IRS and his taxes as like gifts, right? You have an allotment every year, whatever. And so Steve Weinstein, the accountant, had to like reconcile all that, right? And he's telling the detectives, yeah, Paul, Paul's making these payments to Caneiro Life. Here's the records, this and that. Ambassador's just gotten the records from TD Bank, and she's like, what the hell's going on here? I got the real TD Bank records, and then I got the ones that Weinstein got from Paul Caneiro, and they look different, right? Like, doctoring bank records is no different than shutting off your camera at 1:28 in the morning. It's just not. It's the same thing. It's just like hindering an investigation, okay? It's just trying to be smarter than everyone else. I would submit to you that you heard a lot of testimony about the special bond between Keith and Paul, and, Keith was Paul's person and all this stuff. I don't know why I heard that so many times. But, like, I submit to you, based upon the evidence in this case, particularly this evidence, that he thought Keith was stupid. And he thought that this was his operation, despite Keith owning 90% of the business. Because we look here, we look at April, okay? And we see right here on April 9th, 2009, there is a transfer showing up from TD Bank to Canada Life Assurance, right? Okay, and now we're going to look over here at May. We're going to see on May 1, these are the records that Mr. Weinstein got, right? And it says 501, May 1st, TD Bank bill pay, $5,000, Canada Life Assurance Company. I don't know how well you can see that. But the first record that he ever gave to Steve Weinstein has the word assurance spelled wrong. ASSUARANCE. His first, literally the first doctoring of records right here has the company name spelled wrong. Okay, let's keep going.
America's most
So
convenient
now,
bank.
we're looking to compare May, what we just talked about with the misspelling over here, to the real bank records from TD Bank. And what we're seeing is not that it went to Canada Life misspelled Assurance Company, 5,000. 5,000 went to TD Bank checking account ending in 3837. I'm sure you remember that that's Paul Caneiro's checking account at TD Bank.
I think it's one of the jurors you
We go to June 1st of 2018. Fake records, real records. Here we see 618. Mr. Weinstein's looking at this, and he says, this time actually, Mr. Caneiro spelled assurance right. Okay? But it shows that he transfers $7,500 to Canada Life, right? Weinstein takes a look at Detective Bassner's records over here, and he sees $7,500, same date, right? 6/18, June 18th, and it says not Canada Life, but Paul Caneiro's bank account. And when we look here, we talk about funding, and I said it a few moments ago, but I don't know if you could do the math, but you look at all these transfers in, J. Martin payroll, EcoStar payroll. That's Keith's payroll going to the trust account. So, I mean, you could do the math. You're going to have this. And I don't know exactly if it adds up. But all we're saying is that any money that Keith put in that account for Canada Life was supposed to go to Canada Life. If it wasn't $7,800 and it was only $7,200, then put $7,200 in it. Don't take it. Oh, well, he only gave me $7,200. He's $600 short, so I'll just take it myself. That doesn't work. Now we go to July. Again, we see on the fake records, well, this part's real, J. Martin, EcoStar, all these transfers in. Periodically, the payroll, 500, 600, 500, 600, etc. Then Mr. Caneiro allegedly pays $4,500 to Canada Life. But when we look at the real records, lo and behold, that $4,500 goes from the trust account to Paul Caneiro's account. August, we see on the left side, doctored records, right? And you see these check marks, it's actually Weinstein. He was like going through it and like, as an accountant, you know, he's been working with this business for years and he knows their books and everything, but like, he's trusting Paul. You know, like he gave him the records. It shows it's going to Canada Life, right? Shows it's going to Canada Life. Shows it's going to Canada Life. But it's really going to Paul Caneiro. Paul Caneiro. Paul Caneiro. And Steve Weinstein's not getting the records from TD Bank. He has no interest in that account. He's relying on Paul Caneiro, the brother.
Karate Cat Mom. I'm sorry, it was my fault.
It's
I should have been more clear. Thanks.
Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are dead. That Steve Weinstein has any way to know that this is just a perpetration of fraud by Paul Caneiro on his brother. You know, like, had Keith had these records and Steve had these records and Ron Artigas had these records, there wouldn't have been all that scrambling on November 18, 2018. You know, Keith, you heard it at 4 o'clock. Like, he's actually trying to give Paul the benefit of the doubt. Like, what's going on? I've been on the phone all day trying to figure it out with Canada Life. And the problem is that, like, Keith and Ron and Steve, like, they're not the trustee. Like, you might be the accountant, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give you the records. You heard at one point, I think, Artigas had to call and actually say he was Paul Caneiro because he was just trying to figure it out. But this is what's going on. This is what's going on. Again, you know, just in August, we see all this money that's supposed to be going to Canada Life, and it's not. And is it a big deal? Is it a ton of money? No, it's not. But it's about trust. Did he trust him? Was he sick of him? No, they're both sick of each other. Keith's sick of getting stolen from, and Paul's sick of having to deal with, in his mind, this BS from Keith. As if, like, Keith shouldn't have just had some faith that the money he's setting aside for his kids is just going to be there. Now, if there were times when it wasn't funded, so be it. That's not Paul Caneiro's fault. It's probably not Keith Caneiro's fault either, but it is. I mean, he's the one funding it. But it doesn't make that right. And again, when we talk about a lot of the evidence that you heard recently with who Paul Caneiro is or who he was, it's just not consistent with the investigation. I'm not saying that his family or his friends knew about this. They didn't know he was doctoring bank records. They didn't know he was stealing from Keith. But it's the reality. It's the investigation. And it's not tunnel vision. It just is following the evidence. And the evidence is right here. Okay, little things. Bank records. Cameras getting shut off. DNA. Ballistics. Your niece's blood in your basement. It's easy to say, oh, well, DNA can't tell you how it got there. Well, we would have known how it was going to get there if he didn't shut the cameras off. Like, you don't need the DNA people to tell you that, you know, you don't know how Sophia's blood got on there. I mean, we do. I mean, she did have 17 sharp force injuries, and his genes has blood all over. But again, the whole argument, like, we don't know how DNA gets there. We don't know how ballistics gets there. Well, in reality, we do. It's just that forensic scientists can't tell you. They're not involved. They get a pair of genes, right? They get a pair of genes, and their job is to say, let's cut this, let's swab this, and let's see what we get. The investigation, the detectives, the evidence tells you how it got there. And the reason it's there, her hair on the scarf, God help me. Blood on the jeans, blood on the gloves. You know how it got there. You know how it got there. There's no explanation, okay? So to argue we don't know how it got there, the only person to blame for not knowing, or let's just say not knowing, we know. We just didn't see because we couldn't see him put the bag in the car. We couldn't see him take the clothes off and throw them underneath the pile. We couldn't see him starting the fire and then the other fire. Because those very cameras were shut off. If I say it once, if I say it 10 times, I'm sorry. But like, when we look at where the cameras pointed and what they would have shown, it is so obvious why they were shut off. To September, we were going to see that the tensions start to build in September. In September, we got the doctored records, 1,000 going to Canada Life, 300 to Canada Life, 1,000 to Canada Life, 1,300 to Canada Life. And then we see the reality. Transfer to Paul's bank account, transfer to Paul's bank account, transfer to the joint bank account of Paul and Susan, which she had no idea, and transfer to Paul's bank account. This is all Paul Caneiro. Zero respect. And I know I said it once yesterday. I kick myself. I don't make sure it's clear. When he's taking, when I talk about this taking, this transfer from TD Trust to his own bank account or the joint bank account, he's not stealing from Keith. He's stealing from Jennifer, from Jesse, from Sophia. So, if anyone could do this to their family, to do what we saw in those horrific pictures, isn't it more likely that it's the guy who's already stealing from those very people? Like, I'm not saying that justifies it. I'm just saying that it's not unfathomable that he doesn't really have that special bond that you heard about. Like, you know, Sophia or Jesse's on his back in the pool, but he's stealing from them. He's stealing from their future. And he's hiding it. He's covering it up. But he got caught. He got caught. But he only got caught after the murders. No one really caught him, except for April. He got caught, but he lied about it. The investigation into the fire at 27 Tilden, into the murders at 15 Willowbrook, really just unveiled the fact that he was stealing from his brother, and he was trying to cover it up. We talk about the escalation. These are Google Cloud messages from Keith to Paul and Paul to Keith, etc. Keith saying, this is total bullshit. You have time to email me when you need money for your insurance. Remember? He asked if he could put the $5,000 and change for the car insurance on the business, right? Because that wasn't normally covered by the business. And this is the conversation about that. Keith is saying, this is total bullshit. You have time to email me when you need money for your insurance, but you don't have time to follow up with me on
just like saying these words
that affects our only large client, that being Doris Duke. Don't put your insurance on my card. I'll find my own fucking employee and put my own fucker advertisement out.
Yeah, he just likes saying those words.
Regarding the insurance payment. So now he's like, he's pissed because he's got to pay the insurance on the company, right? $5,000. Like, and I think at some point he says, I actually did it for you last year too. But basically, Keith's like, now Keith's kind of stepping back, and he's kind of going back into his, all right, let me try to help my brother, right? Let me see what I can do. And he's basically saying, why can't we pay it monthly, right? Why do we need to put $5,000 on the credit card? And Paul says, interestingly, despite the $60,000 of disposable income he has at that time frame, he's saying, because it's late and I don't have the cash right now, I had to pay for Katie's admissions and I was not expecting that. And then Paul says, I went to pay it and the check bounced. And he says, I'm late and I received a cancellation notice. So they're not going to take that monthly payment, the insurance. They want the whole thing. They've already told him they're going to cancel his car insurance. So he's asking Keith for help, which is fine. But let's just not say that he's got all this money lying around, okay? Despite the renovations and all that stuff. Keith's trying to help him out, but he's saying, I'm done paying you anything for a salary. You are on your own. And Keith says, I just put $150K into this business. Your kids are done with college. I need to start saving for my kids' education.
So
Unfortunately,
I got it.
no, he didn't.
I thought I had told you. I apologize.
Unfortunately,
Thank you.
he didn't have to save for his kids' education because they're never here. They're no longer here. Now they're talking about September 17th. They're talking about EcoStar, the sale, right? Listen, they both went back and forth. I'm not asking you to. We're not giving you the rosy version just because it sounds great. Okay, they're back and forth about EcoStar. But I think what you see from these messages and from the evidence you heard is ultimately that, like, Keith realized that, like, first of all, EcoStar wasn't making a lot of money. Okay, they're 50-50 in EcoStar, but EcoStar's like not really making a ton of money. Like, they got a lot of employees, they're doing pest control. It's not a cash cow. It's not $125,000 a month that they're getting from Doris Duke. Okay, like, that's money. Okay, like, that's even paying people. They're getting money from that. Except remember, Keith's getting 90, Paul's getting 10, because it's Keith's company. But they go back and forth with EcoStar. If we can get $850 for EcoStar versus, so they said he wanted to wait for $1 million. That's not exactly what he said. If we can get $850 for EcoStar versus $1 million at the end of the year, I'll wait. Otherwise, let's settle. I'm done. I want out. If I could get a decent job in the marketplace, I would just fucking walk. We know he was trying to do that. Now, Doris Duke, I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But, like, we're not saying that, like, he didn't want Doris Duke to renew. I mean, even at some of those proposals where it went from, like, $125,000 a month to, like, $96,000 a month, like, Keith will take that. And let's be clear, like, Keith could have a job and Square One could still exist. Like, he's not going to Doris Duke every day and doing the wiring and the IT work. Like, he's the boss. Like, they'll take the $95,000 a month if they're willing to do it. We'll talk about what Ms. Bassey said about that ultimately. But let's continue with EcoStar, because we know if I could get a decent job in the marketplace, I would just fucking walk. Now, we know from Ben Paolucci that, like, Keith is legitimately looking for jobs in the marketplace. The guy's got an MBA from Columbia. He's run a business for like 30 years. And the guy's got some qualifications. Ben's like, hey, there's probably some great jobs for you at AWS, like the cloud services of Amazon. And that's what Keith's doing like 3 nights before he dies. He's looking for jobs. You are my brother. I'll help you out as best I can, but I'm not doing this. I mean, if you could ever, obviously I never met Keith Caneiro or Jennifer or Jesse or Sophia. But, like, if you could ever kind of sum up what Keith Caneiro stood for, what the evidence in this case showed you, is you are my brother and I'll help you out as best I can. But, like, you can't do it anymore. You can't carry it. Keith's got to worry. He's got young kids. They're not even in high school yet. They're not even close to college. They're trying to figure it out. Like, I got to worry about myself. You heard all the conversations, like,
3 hours
maybe
now.
I'll just, like, sell EcoStar. I'll put that money towards my mortgage. I need a big mortgage. But, like, he's thinking about just, like, dumping it in there, trying to get rid of a mortgage, so that even if he has to take a job for, like, less money, he'd be able to make it work. Like, he's thinking about that stuff, which is exactly what Mr. Paul Caneiro is not doing. Okay? We continue. I know that, Paul. That is if Square One is a going concern. If it isn't, if I lose my only big client, we are done. Which is the reality. I mean, they lost Doris Duke. We know that. But they lost Doris Duke. Primarily, we know it was done because of what happened here. They finished out December, but then the company, Doris Duke wasn't bringing them back. I would suspect, and I would submit to you, that Doris Duke was not bringing them back anyway. If you listen to Ms. Bassey's testimony, she wanted cheaper. She wanted a lot cheaper, and they did good work. He was good. Keith was good. The company, Rob Block, they were good. They did good work, but they were not cheap. $125,000 a month for a nonprofit. They were looking for that AWS style type treatment, right? They were looking for that cheaper, that cloud-based. Okay, it was where the times were going. And Keith and Paul, they're both smart. Keith knew where the market was going. I think you heard that. Like, everybody kind of knew that, like, the modern day IT stuff wasn't going to always be exactly the same. And kind of what they offered wasn't necessarily what everybody was looking for, especially for $125,000 a month. Keith, I need to start thinking about paying for my kids' college. We know that. And putting away money for retirement. I don't have insurance policies to pay me if I don't work. You heard that yesterday. I mean, Keith doesn't have that crutch, right? Paul does, but when you look at the income, the disability wasn't going to be enough for this guy. At least it wasn't going to be enough to satisfy the 3 Porsches and the Tiffany and the restoration hardware and the two trips to Colombia in 2018 and $800 whatever for the Audi that he was paying for, in addition to the 3 Porsches and the Jeep. This guy's got big expenses, and it's starting to crumble. That house of cards that Miss Wallace told you about in opening, we stand by that based upon the evidence in this case. We're not going to over-dramatize it, but it's reality. You have that, so figure out a way to restructure things to live within that. He's trying to be like Paul, cut down the expenses, deal with it, plan for the future, but he doesn't want to do that. I'll do what I need to do to ensure my kids will be able to afford college without giving them loans, which is exactly what you did. Hey, can you check with Block to see where he is with that information? So this is November 5th. So this is like the build-up to Keith having to go meet with Doris Duke and Guli Basu, right? So basically, Keith's trying to get together the information, because they're asking questions and stuff, so he can go and present to Doris Duke and say, here's what I got, here are the options. You saw those 3 emails with the proposals. The 6-year option with 4 years or 2 years, if I know anything based on what Ms. Basu said and the evidence in this case, if they were going to get that contract back from Doris Duke, maybe it was for a year. Maybe. That woman who testified in here was not signing a 6-year contract with Square One. I think that if you recall that testimony, that's abundantly clear. You're asking Rob Block, who you heard from. I also want to see if we can do something to get cash for EcoStar. So he's bringing it up again, right? He wants to get rid of EcoStar. I mean, he's not going to sell it for $200,000, but if he gets a decent number, he wants out. It's just aggravation. In case Duke doesn't renew, okay, Paul says rest, we can talk tomorrow. Keith, I'm thinking that if shit really goes sideways, I cash out my 401k and insurance and get rid of my mortgage. I just said that. That's exactly what he's looking for.
I think he's trying to say all the
naughty words. Even if I lose money doing that. So he's not really concerned. He just wants to be able to get a job. He just wants a quote unquote, this is not to disparage the family business, but he just wants to go to work every day and actually maybe report to someone who's responsible and just kind of do his job and go home. Get a paycheck and go home. Not have to worry about payroll and where it's going and whether it's getting to where it's supposed to be going. He wants a little more simplicity in life, it seems like. Paul says relax. That's what he always seems to say. Yes, he's calm. Is he level-headed? I submit he's not. But he's calm, right? Because he's trying to keep Keith at bay because he doesn't want Keith digging. Okay? He doesn't want him digging because when Keith digs, bad things happen for Paul Caneiro, and ultimately, bad things happen for Keith and his family. Let me see if we can get a call going with the people interested in EcoStar tomorrow. Even if it's $900, I would do it. Paul, fucking relax. He doesn't want to get rid of the business because, let's just say $800, right? He gets $400,000, right? He owes money to the IRS. He owes money to credit cards and blah, 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 blah. That money is he's better off with an EcoStar credit card than he is with $400,000. That's just going to go like this. It's going to be gone in weeks. Okay, so understand that. Understand the expenses. It's not just sounds great, right? Hey, we sell the business, I get 4, you get 4. Okay, but, there's money that needs to go elsewhere immediately. So it's not going to get the job done. He needs that piggy bank. Go to sleep. We don't need to do this. We don't need to do this tomorrow. We don't know. Paul says, we don't know what the future is. Well, that never a truer statement was made. And Paul Caneiro says, we don't know what the future is. I know what the future is, Keith says. They're going to cut to 2 people. I'm going to have to kill the new guy that we just hired. When he says kill, he's talking about fire the guy they just hired. Again, 90-10. Doris Duke, I'll keep it brief. You saw that Keith, I think it was November 13th, he meets with Gouli Basu and Peter Simmons, who's like the CEO or LO or whatever it is. And he basically says, all right, after the meeting, like they discuss, Gouli says they discuss finance and like, we want it cheaper, we want it less. They don't want less people. They don't want Square One to go from 3 to 2 techs that are in the office every day. They just want it cheaper. And the only way Keith can really make it cheaper in his mind is to go to having 2 people go there every day as opposed to 3, because obviously it now brings his cost down, so that they can go to like 96 from 125, right? The salary savings. Well, like when you heard Ms. Basu testify, they got those 3 proposals, and she said, we didn't make a decision yet, but I would submit to you based upon her testimony, that salary savings was not going to get the job done. And maybe it's easier because now we're getting pretty close to 2019. Maybe it's easy to just run out that contract. Because remember, the contract wasn't actually expiring. It just, they had an option to cancel, that is, Duke had an option to cancel the contract at the end of 2018. So, like, it could have gone another year. But that wouldn't have changed that Keith's applying for jobs and all those different things that he's trying to do. And he's trying to sell EcoStar. Like, he wants to just be like one of us who just goes to work every day and doesn't have to deal with like the pressures and the BS, so to speak, of running a business. Now, again, I'm not going to belabor it. You heard the testimony. You've seen the charge. You're going to have them.
He says that right before he belabors it.
They made it sound like, okay, these are his expenses. This is what he makes. And he's going to get more in a little while from disability. Okay? The reality is, when you look at the bank records, when he's taking money from the trust, it's because he's in the negative. You know, that insurance check, it bounced. Like, I'm not saying if he thought rationally, he couldn't have figured it out. But this is a guy who's got 3 Porsches in the driveway. Like, he's not looking to cut his expenses. He doesn't want to do that. Overdrafts, return payments, withdrawals during that time. Now, September 2018, Paul's financial issues that we've seen in this case, and you'll have 9-3. Paul complains about not being properly reimbursed for his cars. Like, he's going to Tiffany Rivera, the business manager, and he's saying, you know, ever since we got the different car, I think it was the Caneiro, whatever it was, I think the reimbursables are wrong. So it's like, he's complaining that, like, he's not getting enough money for the car reimbursables, as if, like, he should even be getting them as a 10% owner in the business. September 11th, he received a failed payment notice for Susan Caneiro's iPhone. Basically, like, he didn't pay the bill. 9/11, Paul considers taking out another, and you heard about several 401k loans from Susan Caneiro. Now, she doesn't know. 9/12, he receives a missed Audi payment notice. 9/14 to 9/16, he gets an email regarding that Allstate payment. That's the one for the car insurance. Again, September 16th, Paul asked Keith if he could put his auto insurance on the company card. He saw that. September, it's not going well. Showed that he struggles all the way to the end until that final withdrawal, final theft of $1,200 from the trust account when his balance was in the negative. Are we ignoring things, or are we following the evidence? Let's look at, first we'll just, the trust. I think we've talked about the trust enough. Obviously, the trust, he's a contingent beneficiary. Corey is as well. Paul knew, Corey didn't. Just talk about the trust in the context of how Mr. Caneiro looked at it.
Yep. And that's what that trust is going to let you do, because the trust account is going to give us access to everything. It allows, basically unlocks all the other stuff. Getting everything back, sorted out.
Like,
that was a jail call to his wife, I believe.
It's in January of 2019. He's talking to his wife. He's basically explaining the trust and how it unlocks other stuff and investments or God knows what. But like, Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are dead, and he's talking about the trust account. Like, family man, loves his brother, special bond. Keith's dead. This is the conversation.
Yep. And that's what that trust is going to.
2018, January 2nd takes 1,000. January 10th takes 500. 22nd takes 2,500. February takes 2,200. May takes 5,000. Prior to taking this, he's in the negative. May 15th, he takes a 401k distribution of $43,000. June 18th, he takes $7,500 from the TD Trust account to his own account, and $43 went fast because his balance on June 18th, prior to taking this money, is back down to $4,000. July, he takes $4,500. August 3rd, takes $4,000. Prior to him taking the $4,000 from the TD Trust account, he's in the negative. And then he couldn't make his mortgage payment. August 17th, takes $2,500. His balance is once again low prior to taking the money. August 28th, he takes $1,000. Prior to taking this, his balance is in the negative. He needs this trust account, ladies and gentlemen. It's not always massive amounts of money, but it's every time he can't pay something else, he goes, click, and he just takes it from Keith. Not alone, it's just theft. Repeated theft. September 4th, he takes 1,000. Prior to this, his balance was low. September 4th, he takes 300. Prior to taking this, the balance was $9. September 7th, makes it $5,200 and change payment to Allstate, but he's way in the negative. Allstate payment is returned for insufficient funds. Obviously, there wasn't enough money there to make that payment. That's why he had to ask Keith. 9/10, he makes a $765 payment for the Audi, but he's in the negative. 9/11, Audi payment is returned, insufficient funds. The next couple of days, there's 5 overdraft fees. September 12th, transfers $2,500 from the EcoStar operating account to get out of the negative. September 13th, transfer $500 from EcoStar. Sorry, that one I just said. 9/14, pays $1,265 IRS bill and is in the negative again. September 17th, takes $1,300. Prior to that, he's in the negative, and then he's back in the negative on the same day. September 18th, transfers $1,000 from EcoStar. It's not necessarily his money. September 25th to 26th, receives 2 disability payments. October, balances in the negative again on October 3rd. The next day, he takes $1,500. The next day, he's back in the negative. October 9th, he takes $2,000. October 9th, balance is back in the negative. There's an overdraft fee for insufficient funds on Discovery student loan. October 10th, he makes a mobile deposit of $4,000. October 15th, he takes $1,200. On the 17th, he's back in the negative. The 18th, he transfers $700 from the EcoStar operating account. So why would he not want to sell EcoStar? Is it not clear by looking at this? Because if EcoStar's gone, yeah, he has that $400,000 or whatever that dissipates really quickly. But he can't just transfer every time he needs money. 10/24, he receives a disability payment. 10/29, he takes $2,000. November 8th, he takes $1,000. November 15th, he takes $1,300. Prior to that, the balance was low. The next day, he's in the negative. And he stays there until the final transfer from the trust on November 19th, 2018. The same day Keith's trying to figure it out, he is stealing $1,200 from the TD Trust. We talked about the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. One of the, like we said with the theft, one of the options that you'll have when I submit you find Mr. Caneiro guilty of theft, there's over 75, and then there's like 500 or 75,000. Conservatively, there's no doubt we'll ask you to find in that range. Continue to follow the evidence. Now we get to, now we know Mr. Caneiro stole $1,200 from his brother. Keith doesn't know this on November 19th, 2018. But now we go to these phone calls, the final build-up, so to speak, of what is going to happen in about just under 12 hours. Keith Caneiro, this is the beginning of his final 12 hours on this earth.
Counter Life is telling me they haven't been receiving money except in April. That doesn't make any sense. Counter Life is saying they haven't received money since April. I know it's not true. I need you to send me the statement ASAP because I'm on the phone with them all day already. I need to access the money.
Oh, we're getting really close.
Do you have it scanned somewhere?
Cameraman accidentally leaned on the zoom
Do
button.
you have it scanned in there? Can I log into it and grab it? Do you have the online access? I'll just go online and see it. You don't have the online access? If you could just see a way to send me the password, and I'll do the research myself. Thanks.
Now, 6:05, a couple hours later. Keith tried Paul, so then he tries the house. He speaks to Susan briefly and says, I need to talk to Keith. And I need to talk to Paul. Now, Paul Caneiro calls back his brother.
Hey, Steve, how are you? Sorry to call on the house line. I'm looking for Paul. I know he's sleeping, but I need to talk to him. Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Yeah, please. Call me on my mobile. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Bye. I just spent the last hour and a half on the phone with the insurance company. They're saying they haven't received any money and that they took a loan against my account and they're taking another one in October, which is just in October. I need to know, show me where you're sending the checks in online. You're writing them out online. I need to know where they're going. I need you to wake up, Paul, and do it. Short of you being dead, I need to see your stuff. You need to log into your account then. You log into the TV account. You need to give me the log into the TV account. Your TV account, you don't know yours. You don't know your TV login. Go find it and give it to me. I need to see it now, Paul. I need to see it. I need to see it now. I need it. I understand, Paul. I understand that. I just spent half the day. Paul, I'm telling you. I need it. I need it. I need it.
Give me the fucking login, Paul. Give me the login, Paul. Paul, just give me the login so I can see where the money went. They get on your computer and tell me where the money went. Paul, somebody else could read it to you there. I need to know where that money went.
This has got to be like a voice from the grave for
What's a little while, Paul? I understand you're saying you need to wake the fuck up, Paul. Paul, I'm telling you, I just spent half the day looking for this. I need to know where it went. Paul. Paul. Are you sure it went to the right place this time? You have cash checks? You have cash checks? Paul. I hear what you're saying. Paul, I'm worried. I need to know where it went. Alright, an hour or two. An hour or two. An hour or two, Paul. That means by 8 o'clock.
He believed the excuse from April about paying the wrong pay accidentally. He still trusts his brother. I need to know it went to the right place this time, right? After that conversation, I said it before, does Keith's phone, does the defendant's phone, any video or anything show that Keith got a call back? He got an email?
Lavish
He got an answer?
Porsche's girlfriend's car. Tiffany.
There's nothing. 1 to 2 hours. 8 o'clock, Paul. Nothing. He's up in his room. Paul Caneiro's up in his room. Playing with the laser. 6 hours. Nothing. He does nothing to rectify it. No text, no call. He can't, he doesn't pay it back, right? He can't do that. He doesn't have the money to do that. Just admit it. Admit it, and we're not here. Admit it to your brother. Do something about it. And we're not here. You're not here. Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are. Terrible reason to kill a whole family. But only one person has any reason to kill that family, and it's him. To the negative. And when we talk about Miss Wallace, and I won't belabor, and Miss Wallace said it best in openings when she talks about those 3 income streams that Mr. Caneiro has. He's got the payroll, right? He's getting paid. He and his family are getting paid by Square One and EcoStar. He's got the disability, and then he's got the piggy bank taken from Keith. Those are the steady income streams in 17 and 18. Okay? If they get rid of EcoStar, he doesn't have that. If Miss Basu and Peter Simmons from Doris Duke say, you got a year or you don't. You don't have anything. We're moving on. He's got nothing but the disability. And it's not enough for the way he lives. It's just not enough. And he's not willing to make it work. Also, though, when we talk about motive, right, we know there's that $1.5 million from the trust account, right? And you really haven't heard us standing here, Ms. Wallace explained it in opening. We're not saying that, like, he killed Jesse, Sophia, Jennifer, and Keith for $1.5 million. That's part of it. I'd submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that had to be the only reason that he went back inside that house or went inside that house. Because that's gotta be the motivation to go in and get rid of Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia. He killed his brother. I mean, again, I said it yesterday, not justifying, but saying he purposely, knowingly killed his brother. And it doesn't make it right. None of this makes anything right. But, like, that's why you heard all for 5 weeks, you heard about why it's so believable how he could kill his brother. It's so believable. Just understand the context and the build-up and the jealousy and the, I'm not doing this for you, Keith, anymore. I'm not coming over and fixing this, fixing that. You can understand that. But the only reason, after you execute your brother, that you make that conscious decision to walk inside that house, that dark house, betray that trust, is because the money's inside, right? The only way he gets anything, he just doesn't get anything other than, he doesn't even get anything from businesses. Presumably it would have gone to Jennifer and the family, right? They're 50%, they're 90%. Only motivation to go in there is money. Now, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I struggle. Why? Why would he kill Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia? Why? The only thing you could think is that it's $1.5 million reason why. He's already killed his brother. He's going the rest of the way because he knows it's how he benefits. But assume for 1 second that maybe Jennifer came out and caught him, and that's why he had to do what he had to do, right? Jennifer walked out because she heard the gunshots, runs back inside, game on, right? Kids come down because they hear the commotion. I don't know what the answer is, to be quite frank with you. I don't know. I can't get inside Mr. Caneiro's house. All I know is that he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it. I wish I could come up with a reason. I have no reason. I could never come up with a reason to tell you why he did what he did to the kids. I don't know what to tell you. But he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it. This shutting cameras off and DNA transfer, and God only knows why my niece's and nephew's DNA is on my jeans in my basement. You know, why would I lead police there? Maybe he tried to destroy it and he just didn't do a good job. But he did it. But he also, to kind of close that loop, what Miss Wallace told you was it was less about what he stood to gain and than more about what he stood to lose, like the desperation and the frustration and the, Keith, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm sick of you owning 90%. Because he's not just losing the 3 steady streams, the theft, the disability, and the payroll. He's losing health insurance. He's losing these credit cards. $143,000 in 17, $120,000 in 2018. Damn, that's not $50,000 of disposable income. That's reality. So he stood to lose. They told you the motive isn't good and all that kind of stuff, but it's good for Corey, but it's not good for Paul. But like for Paul, it's not just about that he stood to gain 50%. It's also about all that stuff that he would have lost had Keith's plans kind of come full circle and had Keith realized that his brother is stealing from him.
Don't start a new topic, please.
No, Keith has an MBA. Paul steals from Keith. again, understand when we talk about why he did what he did and why I submit to you that the evidence is going to tell you that the only verdicts in this case will be guilty.
He's now out-talked the defense.
The finances is not something that just
over 3.5
played
hours.
itself out. That's not why he was arrested. That's not why he was charged with murders. He was charged with murders because early on, we're talking before Bodie, we're talking before Star Mix, right? You know, we're all that stuff that was sent, and Miss Danielle Reed came in here and testified. Like, before that, the DNA went to the state police lab, right? And we got results, right? We got Sophia's DNA on the knife, on the handle, right? And we got Sophia's DNA on the jeans. We're talking about that random match probability. I'd submit to you that random match probability, likelihood ratios, they're just two different ways to explain the importance of DNA. I mean, when you're going to say that like 49 billion is not like probative, that it's actually the defendant's blood on those jeans or DNA on those jeans, like you're trying hard to justify what looks really bad. Okay? But remember, we had that DNA before we had all the other DNA. We had DNA. You heard it. The first witness, Chris Simkoviak. I think I actually said it right. And then we also had Chris Clayton with the ballistics. You know, because think about what that means. So the financial stuff it's a buildup, right? It's a process, getting records and trying to understand the context of two guys who own businesses together, you know, and they have a lot of expenses, and they have clients, and they have to figure it out. That's why we had to meet with the accountant and the insurance guy. You know, they're sophisticated insurance people. I mean, he's got 3 disability insurance policies. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Just follow the evidence. And again, when we talk about the finance and the motive and stuff like that, and whether or not it justifies anything, like, think about the fact that within hours of the investigation, Lieutenant Catalona searches the Porsche Cayenne, Susan Snell's car, at the Ocean Township Police Department. The car, he never thought he was going to have to drive to the police department. Never thought it was going to be searched. It's the barrel. Like, I don't care how much he loves the backpack. I don't care how much it's an extension of his wallet. But you want to have some stuff in your backpack? Sure, okay. It's actually a tactical backpack. I work with a lot of detectives who carry basically the same bag. And they have stuff in there, okay? But like, that? Silencers over there? I'm not going to belabor it. He didn't use it. We told you that. We told you he didn't use a silencer. It's interesting to know why he's got a silencer in his backpack. It's because, really, in reality, he doesn't want it to be with all the guns that are lawfully registered, right? And the rifles and stuff, the gun cleaning supplies, and the you know, the hanging targets, practice shooting. Because the silencer looks bad. Like, there's no reason to have a silencer. He didn't use it. He didn't need it. We know it. Kapoor heard it from 2 miles away, right? The gunshots. Remember, he's fleeing that scene, thinking to himself, man, we're in Colt's Neck. It's wide open. Somebody's going to hear that. Like, you got to assume someone's calling 911 when there's 6 gunshots in the middle of the night. I mean, you have to. That's why he's sloppy. That's why he got the hell out of there quickly. And that's why he went back. But, like, before we talk about motive, ladies and gentlemen, why is he taking this out of the 6th hour? If you're getting set up, you're not taking this out. Now, Chris Clayton, he figured it out. It wasn't hard for him to figure it out. He test-fired this barrel. He test-fired the barrel that was in the 6th hour as they found it in the locked metal cabinet in his basement. He figured it out. The barrel from the gun that was in the cabinet, just in case they found it, that barrel doesn't match. This isn't like, oh, they're both 6 hours, et cetera, like all the ammunition's going to match. No, it's not like that. That's not what Clayton told you. 1 6 hour could have been manufactured seconds after the one before it. And the ballistics will never match. Bullets, gun, they only link. Bullet matches to one barrel. One barrel because it's fired out of here. Let's just keep that in context. This, ladies and gentlemen, this killed Keith Caneiro. This likely shot Jesse Caneiro. You heard the testimony. Dr. Thomas said she couldn't conclusively say it, but it appeared to display patterns consistent with the gunshot wound through the chin, like a graze wound. And you know we found the bullet in the kitchen a few feet away from where Jesse was. So, context, investigation, step. Build up. Not zeroing in. You know, if this didn't match, or the gun didn't match the projectiles, I don't know, do we maybe look somewhere else? If the DNA didn't come back to him, and it didn't come back to his niece in the basement, do we look somewhere else? Yes. But like, should we be stupid? Or should we follow the evidence? Again, we're talking about the backpack. We just talked about the barrel was in there. He's got savings bonds. He's got Colombian currency. He's got a driver's license. He's got his passport. You saw the pictures. It's here. His passport. The Audi case. Got every card in his wallet, right? Including, it's not in his wallet like in his pants. It's in a backpack in his backyard, in his back seat. Like, how is someone else getting this driver's license into that backpack with the barrel and the silencer and the passport and the money and the savings bond?
And we get the Sig Sauer
You
into
just
his
set him
locked
up.
safe.
You picked the wrong car. It doesn't make any sense. You're putting that stuff in the Macan, no doubt, if you're trying to set someone up. Not in this car. This is where they found the barrel. It's in a pinch bag, you see. That's the barrel. Paper towels. And interestingly, too, when you look at those paper towels, when you look at the photos from where the DNA is found with the jeans and the scarf and the shirt, all that kind of stuff, you see paper towels. Like he wraps this in paper towels. The same way there was paper towels in that pile. Silencer. This is where we found the gun. Right here. Ammunition right here. Fiocchi's down there. You know, after we find the barrel, after we find the gun, then we get some DNA results, and starting to look like we're not zeroing in on the wrong guy, right? Just following the evidence. This is where it's found. This is the jeans, and there's one pair of jeans. There's one pair of jeans. Obviously, look at the tearing on the jeans. I mean, there's a portion of these jeans that are missing. We talked about it yesterday. This is what's in the bag, because that bag was sent to the state police too. I mean, they saw that. They didn't say these are different jeans, let's test them. They saw that they were one pair of jeans. It's the blood. Blood in the gloves right here. Talk about transfer. You want to talk about transfer? Like, could some of that blood got onto the glove? The blood from the jeans got onto the glove? Of course, it's right there. But could there have already been blood on the gloves? Like, why are they in this pile? Because he's using these gloves to try not to leave DNA, to try not to leave fingerprints. Okay, like, this is like, you know, there's a lot of questions. Did detective vote? Did he check that door? You know, did he swab it? There's blood everywhere. There's not blood everywhere. You're going to have all the photos. It's a fire scene. There's a bunch of blood in the kitchen, which Detective Cordoma explained about. You know, he's an expert in blood spatter analysis. But there's not a lot of blood in the kitchen. And we get criticized because they only swab 4 areas. But like, you can't swab every single place where there's blood. State police, I think you heard, they're not going to test it all for sure. That's for sure. They took an area here, an area here, an area there, and an area here. And you know what you found? Sophia. You found Jesse's by the handprint, right? Very visible handprint on the south side of the kitchen island. And then you go around to where Jesse's found. And then, I said it yesterday, but you find that blood on the kick plate on the bottom, the stainless steel cabinets. And man, we really just figured it would be Jesse's, right? And maybe it took them so long because they were just trying to piece this together. Like, what can we do to kind of explain one day to a jury what happened in that kitchen? And lo and behold, that testing, that area is Jesse. We know they found him dead there. He's lying on the ground. He's up against the cabinet. He's got the blood there. But who would have thought that Sophia's blood's there? Like, she's trying to help her brother. She's bleeding. There's no other explanation other than like, Jesse. And then for some reason, she's bleeding in the kitchen. And she decides, I'm sure she didn't want to decide, to run away. And she goes upstairs. And that's where she's left. That's where she's incapacitated to the extent that she can't get the hell out of that house. I'd submit to you that that's that stab wound through the face into the brain. And that's why she had all the smoke. She had all the soot. She was 49% carboxyhemoglobin. Dr. Zane told you, and I'm not going to belabor this, you know she suffered. Horrible. 10% you might get nauseous, right? 40% you could die. 49% is what she had. Her cause of death was not just, like, it wasn't, be clear, what Dr. Zane told you is the cause of death. It wasn't a contributing cause. It was the cause of death was sharp force injuries and smoke inhalation. The special bond with Jesse. Jesse didn't have the stab wound to his face like that. Passport, bag, all his credit cards, the knife he had, the bag, the FLIR. I don't know. I mean, again, the cameras are shut off, so I don't know if he's walking around like this with a spare phone that's in. He's got a ton of spare phones this big. I don't know if he used it. I can't tell you. We lost the ability to tell you certain things because of the choices that the defendant made to make it difficult or simply impossible to see what happened. The Audi key, some other keys, his college applications. This Strepo told you about that. Her daughter's college applications. Passport. Caneiro. It kind of leads you to the question that I'm sure, I suspect you're all asking, is like, where was Paul Caneiro going to go?
We were going to ask, when is this going to end?
Like, there's no other explanation. And I don't know that, I'm not saying he had a plan. He didn't really have a lot of time to have a plan. He comes home at 4:08, packs the backpack, has to figure out how to set the fire, get the clothes in the corner, take them off, switch clothes, make sure I don't have shoes on because I want to make it look like I'm sleeping. But like, that bag, whether he carries it all the time, it doesn't always have that stuff in there. Like, there's no way, and we know that the barrel was just used in cold snack, I don't know, like an hour later, or an hour earlier, right? That barrel was used in cold snack.
It's by your computer. There it is.
That bag, like, he put that bag in there before he pulled the car out of the garage, right? 5 o'clock. This barrel is used at like 3:26, let's say, Dennis report, right? So like, no matter what he had in that bag normally, he didn't normally have this in the bag. And I bet he didn't normally have the silencer in the bag. And I bet he didn't normally have the passport in the bag. And I bet he didn't have like a ton
savings bonds?
A ton of savings bonds. Caitlin and Marissa Caneiro. Like, he's got a safe in the garage. Like that big black safe you saw spinning. Like, what the hell are these doing in the backpack? Listen, not the biggest piece of evidence, but like, think about it. What's he thinking? He's thinking that, like, listen, if the cops show up and, like, it doesn't look suspicious, you know, like, we had nothing to do with the fire, they're not going to question us about it. It just looks like, you know, they're going to start an investigation. Maybe they'll, whatever, look for whatever. But, like, if he's got a minute, I mean, think about what he just did. Like, he's got no choice, man. He's using that passport and he's getting the hell out of here. But he never had the opportunity. Because he never left the Ocean County Police Department. Because we found certain things quickly enough to make it clear that he had something to do with this fire. Now, he wasn't charged with murder right away. Detective Zerillo told you that. It's like 8 days later or something. So it's not like they just said, you killed everybody and they charged him. No. But based upon the evidence they uncovered pretty quickly in Ocean, the cameras and all that kind of stuff, and shutting off the cameras, he gets charged with the arson in his own house. I digress a lot, so some of these slides I've probably said ad nauseum to you already. But this is about evidence, and it's not about one little piece of evidence.
I wish you'd hold still.
It's about the combination of a ton of evidence that is all pointing squarely to Paul Caneiro. Talked about that. But I kind of want to close this because...
Thank you.
You know, it was brought up in opening statements that there was another brother.
He has 18 points on his bulletin.
My recollection is that basically they were saying that Corey Caneiro did this, right? Now, I just wanted to put in context, like, that you have not heard anything about anyone entering that house other than him or other than his family in Colson. I mean, in Ocean. Like, you have not seen other people on camera. You have not seen other evidence. So let's just think about if he's framed. Okay? Because again, if what they argued in openings and yesterday in summations is in any way true, he has to be the unluckiest man in the world. Because we would have seen this had he not shut off his own cameras. So it's like, kind of shut up his own house. So, between 1:31 and 2:08, because remember though, Paul Caneiro told the police he was asleep, right? He told them that he hadn't been in the basement since 4 p.m. the day before. I know that's not true. But between 1:31, that's when he shuts off the cameras in the basement, on camera, and 2:08 when the car leaves. Corey or whoever has to sneak inside 27 Tilton. Now, Caitlin Caneiro told you when she testified, Ms. Wallace asked her, you know, she was the last one to go upstairs that night. I think she said it was about 11:30. Ms. Wallace asked her, were the doors locked? Like the rear doors that you heard a lot about. You heard that they were open, right? Lieutenant Catalona told you about that? How he also told you about how he checked all the doors for visible fingerprints and things like that, and he didn't find any. But those doors, when she went to bed, are unlocked. How is someone getting in this locked house? How is Corey Caneiro getting in it? You didn't hear, like, you heard a lot, like, oh, Corey came over one time or several times with the kids and used the pool when we weren't home. Like, what was that? That's like, hey, Corey's been alone in the home before. He could have done something. But did he? No. Did you hear any of that evidence? No. Is it evidence? No. Okay? They're trying to kind of give that, like, oh, Corey was there alone once. Like, maybe he did it. Okay, so between 1:31 when we know he's awake, okay, last time, like, you see him awake because it's the last time a camera's on. Between that time and 2:08, Paul's got to go to bed, fall asleep, and someone's got to figure out how the hell to get into that house. Several of the doors have chimes, right? You know, you heard about the soundproofing. I've never heard that before, but you heard it. I guess there were some soundproof rooms. That's convenient now, but it is what it is. Corey or whoever's now also got to get in the house. He's got to go down to the basement. He's got to figure out where to, I guess, find a key or a combination to the lock for the safe with the guns. Because he's got to get the guns, right? Got to get the gun, got to get the Fiocchi ammunition. He's got to find the key to the Macan, right? I mean, I think it's safe to assume when you have a loaner car, and I think he only had it for a couple days. I knew it was a short period of time, but one of his daughters said that. Anybody get a loaner car when their car's getting serviced and get more than one key? If they're not buying the car. You're not buying the car. They're giving you one key. This is the Audi key, but it's one key. Okay, so he's got to find the key.
I got 2 keys on one
He
permanent
then has
keychain.
to go back outside quietly, get in the car, drive to Colts Neck, do everything he did in Colts Neck, take the panel off, disable the generator. No testimony that anyone other than, not even Ben, kind of said it, who was like aware of everything, but like the only person you ever heard about any knowledge about the generator and all that electricity and stuff in the basement is Paul Caneiro. But whoever goes to Colts Neck, they got to rip the panel off, disable the generator. They got to shoot Keith with, like, I mean, there's no other way to explain it. You saw the photos. I got one right here when we talk about Keith. Like, he's got one shot in the back, comes out the stomach, through his hand. Every other gunshot is here up. I mean, that's a guy. That's a shooter who goes to gun ranges. That's a shooter who's got multiple guns. That's a shooter who practices. That's a guy who's got, you know, things in the backpack.
What is he saying?
One of the
You have to have stuff in
the
your
Mantis
backpack.
training system in the backpack in the Cayenne with the barrel and the silencer. Those are accurate shots. They're like crazy accurate shots. And that's like a guy who's got targets hanging in his basement next to the rest of his guns in his gun locker. That is like marksmanship. You don't need a laser. A laser target's only for practice, not the real thing. He's got to cut the ONT line in the basement. He's got to go back to Tilden. He's got to park the Macan. He's got to, again, get back in the house quietly when Marissa, Caitlin, Susan, and I guess Paul are all asleep in the house. That person then has to go back down to the basement, take the clothes off, stick them in the area where we would have seen them stick it, had the camera not been shut off. They got to go over by the gun safe. I guess now they must have the key or the combination at this point because they got it out the first time. But now they got to get the gun back in there. They got to take the barrel out. They got to know how to take the barrel out. Sergeant Clayton told you it's not complicated. I mean, I don't have a gun, so I don't. I've heard how you do it. You just pop the slide off, put the barrel in, take the barrel out, whatever. But they got to do that, and they got to have a reason to do that, which is very inconsistent with what we're talking about, setting someone up. And again, they'd be doing all this by that locker in that gun area with the cleaners and all that stuff. They'd be doing it in a place where they should have been on camera, but they weren't because of him. So he's either guilty of murder or he's the unluckiest man in the world. Person then has to get back out of the house, set the fire at 4:30. And then interestingly, I said it yesterday, but I don't know how the mystery guys that are at the house at 4:30, if that time's accurate, are still there at 5:02 or 5:01 and change when that second blaze starts in the garage area by the driveway. Like 32 minutes these guys are going to sit around? That's about as dumb as knocking on the door after you set fire to a house. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a way to try to figure out a way to say that despite the evidence all pointing to me and all being extremely devastating, hey, I got set up. But all these steps set fire to the house, put Paul's backpack not into the Macan, but into the Cayenne in the garage, And again, third place, we should have seen that backpack go into the Cayenne because it's in the garage and you saw it when he shut off the camera.
Which bullet point were we on?
Unluckiest man in the world. And then Corey's got to go back before Caitlin calls and his wife
That's
gets him the
18.
phone and they
That's
speak
18.
before he comes over and takes him out for bagels. All these things would have had to happen. And he's only been asleep for what? I mean, he's in the basement at 1:31. Like, how quickly could Paul Caneiro have gone upstairs and gone to bed? Like, what? I mean, minimum, he's got to go upstairs. He's got to lie down. No matter how tired he is,
I can do it in
takes
under
a couple
5 minutes.
Like, within 20 minutes of that, all of a sudden, someone's sneaking into the basement and taking the gun and then leaving and then coming back and somehow getting in without serving anyone, without the dogs barking. The doors are locked, etc. And again, I didn't show this yesterday. I skipped past it by accident, but like in the context of where Mr. Caneiro is at 1:31, and he's not sleeping. Within a few minutes of this, someone else has got to sneak down here, right, and get that gun right out of here, A locked. You saw that big lock. There's pictures. You'll have it. Take a look. I forget what the way Catalan described it, but it's like there's some like twisting part of it. It's like it's a strong lock. He had to use bolt cutters to cut it off. Well, we would have seen it. Someone else did it.
It's not a strong lock. It's a little wire.
We would have seen it.
With a screwdriver.
But we didn't because it was him, and that's why I shut the camera. Why would you swap the barrel? Why would you plant the blood on the evidence in the defendant's basement and then try to destroy it if you wanted to set someone up? It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, I hate this analogy. A lot of prosecutors use this analogy. It's like another thing I said I never do, but it's like the kid caught with their hand in the cookie jar, right? You know, mom walks in and catches the kid in the kitchen, he's got his hand in the cookie jar, he's got some crumbs on him, and all of a sudden his mom's like, "What are you doing, Paul?" And he goes, "It was Corey." That's really what we're talking about here. Follow the evidence. Follow the evidence. You know, it's implausible to understand how someone gets Mr. Caneiro's DNA on the inside of his jeans and in other places that we've talked about.
We have talked about.
Now, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Obviously, you probably all recall video that was ultimately obtained from the Wise cameras at Keith's house. Same grouping of cameras where we saw the conversation in the office and in the kitchen. This is the Garage North camera, and obviously this is we had about 16 minutes of video, 2:35 to 2:51, and you see someone appear, right, and then you hear that metallic noises as the person's ripping the panel out or trying to, and it's taking time. You see the person go that way. But we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch a portion.
Judge pours himself something strong. I mean, refreshing. Excuse me. It's Paul with his 3-inch vertical. It does look like.
See the glove there? Black glove.
Can't figure it out.
Going back towards the generator.
Thought the generator's off to
You
the
just
left.
saw a small portion. There's about 15 minutes. At times the light comes on, light comes off. He goes through. He goes over by the generator. That's where he's kind of over by the generator. Over here. He's not really gone very long because we know it's just a switch. Because if you know where it is, just shut the auto on-off switch off, right? There's a lot of talk about measuring this. Like, yeah, you could measure this, right? You could see where that third panel is and how tall it is, right? But the problem with that is that there's no way to really tell because this camera's at an angle. Like, we're not shooting straight, right? So there's no way to tell or estimate the size of that person. I would submit to you. I would submit to you that what we're going to look at here, you slow it down, you can pause it, you can do whatever you want. But this person, regardless, and I know it's paused here, but if you watch it,
it's Paul.
Watch it again. This person's got hair, right? Hair. And they're wearing black nitrile gloves. And that's entirely consistent with all the evidence. Now, obviously, nobody is identifying that person, right? It's impossible. But when you look at all the other evidence, in his car that's driving on Willowbrook just a little bit earlier, and then parking, out here, right? Out here past the solar panels, either on that driveway or in that little opening on the grass. Walks right up to this area, right? And remember, when we look out here, this is just a little patio here, and this is exactly where we find the shell casings. So he shuts off the generator, shuts off the electric. He actually doesn't even shut off the solar panels, which shows you that you kind of have to know the house, right? Because what you found out about the solar panel array is that it's not a backup source of power. And I don't know, I'm no electrician, but I would have thought that the solar panel might have done something when the power goes out, but it actually doesn't. And really the only people that know that are the people that were there when it was installed and the house was being built. Paul Caneiro, Keith Caneiro. So you wonder why that wasn't shut off, because it didn't need to be. But when you think about the evidence in this case, and I know hair is a little fact, it's just a little thing, right? But that's not Corey Caneiro. That's not Keith Caneiro in the middle of the night either, because they're both bald. And these gloves right here, Paul Caneiro's DNA on them. Just showed them to you. So it's we can't tell you everything. I wish maybe we would have saw something out here at around 3:42 with someone leaving the house, right? But we can't because he shut the power off. He shut the power off. Shut it off in Ocean, and he shut it off in Colts Neck. And when you do that, it makes you look really guilty. And I'd submit to you, it makes it look bad when you're trying to argue that we didn't do this or we didn't find this.
He needs to stop taking this personally.
We had no ability
wrap it up.
After 251 to see anything. We'll talk about that in a second. Shutting off the camera. Video from your rear neighbor. Other surveillance cameras untilted. Barrel in the bag with the silencer. DNA in your basement. Right by the point of origin. No, I'm surprised I haven't said this yet, but sloppy, right? Smart tech guy or smart tech guy who just killed his niece and nephew and he's really just trying to figure out what the hell to do. Get rid of the evidence. Should have torched it directly, right? Nothing you can do about the gun because you can't hide the gun because it's registered, right? We talked about that yesterday. But you should have just torched it directly. Torched it. Put it outside.
Advice for future criminals? What are we doing now?
Setting that fire outside that window, with the window open and pointing right into where this stuff's found. It should have been destroyed. Again, Ocean Township Fire Department really screwed Mr. Caneiro. That was the plan. Just didn't work. Talk about the no shoes, his daughter said the other day that no one else had shoes on other than their mom. I didn't see that in the DVR, in the body-worn cameras. But regardless, I said it probably twice yesterday. He's got time to go back in the house. He comes out, fuck, I hit my hand, or whatever it is. You know, even Caitlin Caneiro acknowledged that, like, she didn't actually see her dad hit his hand. She heard him say it. I personally, sorry. I don't, he either was saying it to try to make his daughter think like he hit his hand because he's got that hand injury, and that hand injury comes from Colt's neck. Like, I'm sorry. There's no way that hand injury happened fleeing a fire, which, when they fled the fire, wasn't even that bad yet. I mean, there's some smoke, there's no flames. They're going down the stairs, they're leaving. Not saying it's not alarming, but like, that hand injury, I mean, there's no other way to look at it other than it's got to be Sophia Caneiro. 17 sharp force injuries. And then Dr. Zhang told you about the blunt force injuries. It's got gloves on, right? But get the hell out of that hand somehow. But here, like we talk about, this is the mudroom, 27 Tilden. I won't belabor this, but this is the mudroom, and this is what you pass as you go into the garage to get the Cayenne to pull it out.
What does he think
and
belaboring
here you just have
means?
like a pile of stuff, a pile of shoes. The next picture, there's other shoes. Like, I would suggest to you, in combination with all the evidence, is that like not wearing shoes that morning was just like a really trying way too hard to make it look like you were sleeping and you weren't in Colt's neck killing everybody. That's what that looks like to me. No coincidence. Again, when we talk about what cameras would have shown, this is the kitchen. This is the Wise camera on the counter at 15 Willowbrook, right next to Sophia's picture. Staring right out over here, exactly where Jesse is found lying on the floor. Jesse, next, lying on the floor. These are the kitchen cabinets, the jury box. It's lying right here. What's here? What's here? The mudroom, the garage, the door with the Nest cam. Freedom.
I've got to turn my fan
Life.
on. I can't sit here.
He was so freaking close to the outside. But power was cut. The Nest camera, I'll talk about it quickly. They kept showing me during cross-examination that picture of the Nest cam, right? Of what, they just kept showing it. And then all of a sudden, Lieutenant Petruzzello testified. And then, he got asked about it. And it was like, oh, there's actually, an explanation, right? The Nest camera, so this is the door next to the garage. Okay, well, I think it's right here. It's the door next to the garage. So the garage is right over here. This is the front door, right? There's a bunch of video from Wise with people coming in the garage. That's kind of what they did. They pulled their cars in the garage. So, I'd submit to you that this door didn't really get used very much. But what this picture actually is the exact same picture, notifications at Nest to Caneiro in Ocean. Your cameras just got shut off. This is what it showed. This is a notification at 2:52 in the morning to Keith Caneiro saying your Nest camera is off. We know why it's off because the panel just got ripped off and the generator's off. So the camera shuts off at 2:52 a.m. Lord only knows what this camera would have showed. But he cut the power. So I don't know what I don't understand what the point of this picture is. They argue to you that Petruzzello should have followed up. He told you he got a communications data warrant, which is a search warrant for companies like electronic providers, service providers, like Nest. And he requested the records for November 19th, November 20th, because really that's what else is relevant. And what he got back from Nest was that there was no footage. There were no activations. They're acting like this is an activation on the 20th. It's not an activation. This didn't come on because someone's at the door. It came on, or it gets emailed to him saying, This is what your camera looked like when it was cut. It's not an activation. It's a notification. Just like Paul Caneiro's. Like the one picture in Mr. Caneiro's basement, when he cuts the power, he's standing by the guns. The guns, you know, in the storage locker. So he's in the picture. The other one, he's not actually in the picture when it gets unplugged. I don't know if they're both unplugged from the same place and he's only in one picture and not the other. But like, they're right next to each other, so he's there. But like, this is nothing. If there was video there was an activation at, let's say, 2:45, we would have got it from Nest. But there wasn't any, because no one was in this area. He's over on the other side of the garage, ripping the panel off. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is just confirming, all it is. It's confirming that the power was disconnected at 2:51, 2:52, just like that Wise camera showed you. Because kind of like the DVR in the garage, it's like, he's there, it's 2:51 and change, and all of a sudden, camera's off. Coincides with the noise and the jiggling and the ripping of the panel and the door on the ground, right? And the meter on the floor.
Can I see the attorneys for a second?
The judge is going to inform the defense and the prosecution right now that legally, should Paul be convicted by this jury, the time they spend talking is going to be counted against his sentence as time served. And it might be significant. It might be significant. I'm sorry. He has gone on for over 4 hours. We're over, I think, over 4 hours and 15 minutes now. It's 10:30. I think he's basically said we've had enough. We've had enough. Jury's going to leave.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give your mid-morning break at this point in time. Please don't discuss this case or do any research. And we'll be back out at about 10 minutes to 11. Thank you all. Get your lights back on.
Somebody says, wow. The jury's now listened to 3 hours of defense closing and 4 hours and 15 minutes of state closing. 3.5 hours of defense, 4 hours and 15 minutes of... We're just shy of 8 hours of closings on this one.
Okay. See everybody in 15 minutes.
Quick 15-minute break here. A mercy break. The judge is not stopping him. The judge is not stopping him. He can't. He basically set the ground rules at the beginning of the match. They're in the middle of the game, and he can't change the rules now. But I think, if anything, the judge is liking the attention from the media, and he's okay with this taking as long as it takes. So this one's on the judge. We're blaming him for sure. I have noticed more and more as the prosecutor, I won't say drones on, but as the prosecutor proceeds through his closing arguments, we're hearing the words again, yeah, and again. And we already talked about this. And if you remember, we spoke about this earlier. He's running out of things to talk about. And I realize he's not running out of PowerPoint pages, which is a problem because that means he just keeps recharging every time he hits the next page button. But he is noticing, at least mentally, that a lot of this stuff he has covered, where either he jumped ahead earlier or hit it lightly or put a pin in it. But counting yesterday for the state, yesterday was 3.5 hours total for the defense, and we had 2 hours and 22 minutes for the state yesterday. So I've just started that 2 hour and 22 minute timer this morning, and now we're up to almost 4 hours and 20 minutes. So that's a lot. That's a lot. In pre-trial, no one argued for the jury to be able to take notes. Some judges just don't do it as a matter of practice. They feel that if a juror is taking notes, they might think, oh, I'm going to write that down. And they're focused on writing down something, and they're going to miss what came after, which might be impactful. So instead, they just want you glued to what's happening in the now and then just absorb it all. I don't know how a judge, especially like this one, Honorable Mark Leno, I don't know how he says his last name. It looks French. I don't know how he can expect the jury to remember everything when he himself has multiple legal pads full of notes on this trial that he has to refer to frequently. I don't know. We still on closing? Yes, we are, but we do expect to be done before lunch. And by we, I mean I. The judge has left that door open. I don't think he's going to slam it now. So this is just a continuation of, if you'll pardon the crassness, the pissing match that the two sides, prosecution and defense, have had throughout this trial of always getting the last word in, and who gets to say it, last. In this case, by rule, the state gets to go last, and they're enjoying every moment of it. I definitely said it wrong. Yes, Lemieux. My French teacher. Well, I only had one. My French teacher would be very disappointed in me. I don't know if I took it for 2 years. I think I took French for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, I was able to say, Je m'appelle Scott. Comment allez-vous? Bien. Et vous? Oh, mon petit chouchou. This is all my French language skills right here. Which the last one I think means, oh, my little cabbage, which I guess is something the French people say. Je parle français, la langue de l'amour. Yes, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful language, and that's all I can say of it. All right, I love it when R.A. speaks French. I know. I can barely speak English, Red Pen, and you know that. But it's funny. All right. We are, ooh la la, yes. We watched a show in French. It was something like Téléfrancais. I think it was Téléfrancais, which I think means French television. But it had this. There were like kids. I guess it was like France's version of the Teletubbies before anyone just invented costumes, right? So it's just like people reenacting in a completely fake way. In very simple language that we're just supposed to absorb and then know French when we're done watching it. I was in England hanging out with a buddy from France, and I mentioned seeing that show as a kid, like in my French class, which I learned nothing from. And he like lights up and he starts singing the theme song. I'm like, that's it. That's the one. He's like, yeah, we actually did watch that in France. This wasn't like an American version of a French show. It was a French television show. Oh, man. And then he translates a song for me. He's like, there's one about Tom Sawyer. It's like, Tom Sawyer was just a little boy who did not like school. And he's like translating in his head into English. But he preferred fishing fish with his friends on the banks of the Mississippi or something. It's a funny thing. Anyway, if you've seen the movie, if you've seen that video, you know. I have no idea what it was. Why are we talking about this, by the way? Probably because the prosecutor is talking our brains into numbness. I watch French television daily. It's awesome. Okay. I can ask how to get to the swimming pool, the disco, and library and ask for a kilo of potatoes. Well, you've got entertainment, relaxation, learning, and dinner covered. That's all. You just need the bathroom. That's the only other one. Or as they say in England, the toilet, because the bathroom is where you bathe and the toilet is where you toilet. Are we on Verdict Watch? Mary, I wish I could say yes. Like every part of me wishes I could say yes and show you a timer, but no, we are not there yet. Hopefully soon. I would say today. We'll be there today, but not yet. Maybe this is going to be super effective. You know how we on our last trial, we said, 1 hour of deliberation for every day in trial. That's how long the jury is going to take. Maybe we'll find that we come back with a very quick verdict in this one. And the jury's like, no, we did our work. We're solid on this. We're good. We're good. And we might be basically watching the deliberation time right now. That could happen. I know just enough to get my face slapped. Oh, that's how much Spanish I know. I learned Spanish in a metal shop. So yeah. The common greetings to friends, I found out was not as common and not usually used for friends. Let's see. They're really trying to make this trial last until March. You solved his last theorem. You're wrapping up your second novel, graphic novel, doing the illustrations and everything. You took it down before. Hung jury to punish a state in defense. I hope not. I really hope not. I think the jury has enough evidence to reach a verdict on this one. Let me draw a couple things that I did find impactful out of the defense closing here, that I think were valid points to make to the jury, and possibly could have been the only points to make to the jury. But there are a few things the jury needs to know. One, that Paul Caneiro told police that he was asleep in bed all night, that he did not go down to his basement anytime after 4 p.m. the night before. And he lied. And we know he lied because it's on video. That's important. It's important to know that in the morning when the police are trying to figure out what happened, he lied to police. That's number one. Number two, the location of the gun and the barrel used in the shooting is key. If you're trying to blame Corey, you have to give Corey the key to your Porsche, the password to your safe, and access to all your legal documents and, passports, savings bonds, everything that you need, that you don't want to burn down in the fire, all your family's important documents. And you have to give him access to that during the night while this is going on, as your house is getting lit on fire. It does not add up. You cannot get the barrel in the backpack in the car, that's his wife's car. It doesn't work. You can't logically get there and put somebody else into this mix. Then you've got the whole driving to Keith's house and back, which the state basically waved the white flag and yeah, it's his car. Yeah, we know it. Are you saying it's his car, or are you saying it's him? Because I'm pretty sure it's him. Otherwise, Corey has to come in, break into the house, steal the key to the car, take the car, drive away, do the blammy, stabby, stabby, drive back, put the key back, okay, and do it. It doesn't work. And the unplugging the video cameras, there is no explanation, especially when he told police you were asleep and that you were not awake, and that I don't know what the problem is. If I was writing the story as a book, Corey would be having an affair with Paul's wife due to Paul's affair, and they colluded to frame Paul. Okay, so there's an allegation that will get us sued. No, I understand what you're saying. This is one of those bizarre situations that you just can't envision how it would happen that way without there being some other weird facts in there. Video camera thing was bad for Paul, very bad. I don't think he expected to receive that, or for the police to find it. All right. The haunting thing here is, as I am becoming more and more convinced of Paul's guilt, as the state goes back over the evidence that we all heard during trial, And we listen to these voices. We listen to the phone call between Keith and Paul. We listen to the kids in the background in that phone call. And we hear exactly what happened, and the prosecutors recounting this. We get a camera shot of Paul, and he's sitting stoic, as he has for almost the entire trial. Okay, he's not extremely expressive. A couple times he's wiped some tears from his eyes, real tears. Mostly, I think he cries when he sees other people crying about a situation, like his daughter or something like that, or the jury watching the video of the medical examiner from the kids or something. He just sits there stoic, and you're like, what is happening in your head right now? If, as I believe you are guilty, are you playing in your head going, no, he got that wrong. That's not how it happened. No, I didn't. Nope. She was outside. They both came outside to check the power. What are you doing in your head? Or are you still in your head, saying, nope, my story is I was in bed, and just shutting it out and trying not to remember the screams and the terror and the blood and everything else that happened that night? What happens inside their head? I'm not sure if I want to know, actually. It's scary. All right. I went to the grocery store and bought groceries and came back, and they're not done yet. The only time I think he actually cries is when it relates to Sophia, which is kind of suspect to me. I think he's cried when someone else has been crying in the room, like a juror or his daughter. It's almost like he forgets to cry other than that. All right. I know a lot of you are asking about other trials. This is where we are. We live here. We've committed to this trial. We're going to be here till the verdict. After this trial, the next big trial we will be watching is the Corey Richards trial. We may have time to pick up another short trial in between the two because it doesn't start until February 23rd, which gives us 11 days. I'm hoping we can. We might go back and watch one that happened or pick up one as it's going right now if it ends before then. I just don't have anything blocked out. We're definitely not going to pick up a big trial starting before Corey Richards. Corey Richards is pretty much locked in now. I don't anticipate it getting moved at all, and I don't anticipate her taking a plea deal either. So that's where we're going to be. We've put a lot of effort into that case, and we're gonna follow that one. And I think it'll be worth your while. There is so much spiciness in there. There's so much personality and intrigue and levels of I don't know, debauchery. What do you want to call it? There's all sorts of stuff in there. What if closings got into KR? Real government name. Go back to work monitoring the internet. Please don't will that into existence or put that out into the ether so it could possibly happen. We don't want that. You can't rationalize evil. I agree. Did they go on break, or is the judge still talking to him? They went on break. I think the judge may have said a nice word saying, hey, I'm noticing the jury is starting to drop off here. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. A couple of them are, catching up on some late nights while you're waiting. Let's see. Mary Dewey says, my siblings and I know each other's PIN numbers for the bank and have a spare key to each other's cars, and the guys have access to each other's guns. We have a lot of trust. Wow. That is great, Mary Dewey. Not all families are like that. I know in my family, I know enough. I can make a deposit into many of my siblings' bank accounts. It was like, hey, I sent you some money for Christmas or for a birthday present. I could do that. I'm pretty sure I couldn't withdraw anything, but yeah. Barely trust myself with my own info. What was the goal for the Nancy Guthrie updates that we got last night? Black gloves, similar to the ones that were seen in the video, were found. We heard it was a pair, at least one glove. The FBI is investigating that, and they're going to be doing DNA analysis of the glove and rushing it. A lot of times we say we're coming back. Hang on one sec. Judge is back. They're rushing that, and so we're going to see if we can get DNA matches. They're also doing some heavy-duty researching on the storefront side of the stores that may have sold the backpacks or sweaters or hoodies or distinct clothing that was seen in the video, to try to build a pool of possible suspects that way. So I've heard a lot of good things about the Faust trial in Georgia, especially about how crazy the judge is. So we might take a look at that. Depends what happens during the break and when we get a verdict. I don't think we'll have time to go back and catch up. So is this the length of a typical New Jersey trial closing? I don't know. I'm trying to remember what other... Do we have any previous... Greeners, use your tool. Do we have any previous New Jersey cases? I'm wondering if they had long closings as well, if that's just a New Jersey thing or if it's maybe just this judge thing. Thought someone said there was a white tent up there. There have frequently been white tents up there. Anytime they're doing any sort of extensive collection, they do that.
Everyone's back, and we'll continue with the summations of the state.
As I was saying,
I want to try to push towards the end of this and talk a little bit about the DNA, right?
No,
the
it's
DNA,
a new topic.
What it actually means and what it doesn't mean. Now, I've said it many times, but his DNA, his genes, his house, Sophia and Jesse's DNA on it. Dr. Wright told you, relatives share DNA, we got it. Does that change, though, the cross-examination of Dr. Wright and how he indicated that many of these samples conclusively and reliably showed that the victim's DNA were on his clothes that he tried to destroy? That allele sharing argument, the question marks in the one column with Corey, it's just desperation and another attempt at betraying another member of his family. There's the knife, and this was recovered. As you'll recall, you can see the state of it now. Detective Vogt testified about how it was found in the foyer area, right? Kind of in an area that had been kind of, not necessarily dug out, but kind of collected in that area. And you'll recall that that's the area where Jennifer Caneiro was found. Remember those pictures? She had a little yellow blanket that they put on top of her, right at the top of the stairs that go down to the basement.
His favorite place to stand is right in the Mike dead zone of the court.
And that knife, obviously they didn't put the knife into that block in the kitchen, right? Because they didn't want to contaminate or transfer any evidence. But you could see, and you heard the testimony, that that knife came from Keith Caneiro's own kitchen. The knife that at least took part in the murder of Jennifer Caneiro, and took part in at least, because you don't necessarily know if that's the only knife that was used, right? That's the knife that was found. You don't know, potentially, if he left with another knife. I mean, you know from the testimony in this case, you brought out that black bag with Detective Catalona. We walked it up here, and we didn't really open it up and show you everything in it. Really no need. You saw some pictures in one of those drawers that was over by the metal gun locker in Mr. Paul Caneiro's house. By all the guns. There's a bunch of knives in there. But obviously at some point, he has to turn to another weapon. They're arguing that because there's a gun and because there's a knife, there's two people. But What evidence of there is that? You saw the garage camera, right? That's 15, 16 minutes of footage that shows one person. It's like he has a ton of bullets and all that kind of stuff, and he would have brought enough bullets. Like, what if, for instance, he was just going to shoot everybody once? Or, like, he obviously could have shot Keith Caneiro once. I mean, one bullet, at the end of the day, would have killed Keith Caneiro. That one last shot on the jacket with the gunshot residue, and you heard from Judith Link from the state police, that cruciform tear, which is consistent with the gun firing against the fabric and causing that tearing, that was enough. So the fact that maybe he didn't quite bring enough ammunition, does that mean there's two people involved? I mean, presumably, he had a magazine. We don't know which magazine he used, because he had hundreds of magazines in his house. But we know how many bullets were found, right? We know how many bullets were found, and we'll talk about that when we get to ballistics, but we're going to go to DNA. Now, again, importantly, because they did a lot to try to, I don't want to say denigrate, but they were trying to point out things about likelihood ratios and mixtures and things like that with the Bodie and with the star mix. You heard about star mix and how like 90 plus labs in the United States are using it now. State police got it in 2022. That's why we went to Bodie. And, you know, the state police was actually kind of like behind the game, like because of COVID, and a lot of labs have it. And basically 80%, I think they said, of labs in the United States are using it. But like, put that aside for a second, because that's just a way, like Dr. Reich said, is that like, he see majority of what he sees as a DNA analyst is mixtures. So mixtures are common. So like when you see like, you know, they test something and there's two contributors and maybe there's just like a little bit of the second one, there's not enough there, it's a mixture. That's what Star Mix is able to do. And like comparing numbers, like, you know, Sophia's 8 sextillion or whatever likelihood ratio, like that's great, right? I mean, that's very probative. That's her DNA. But like in that one sample, the defendant in that mixture might only be like 400,000. But that's also because, as you heard, there's something called like average peak heights and RFU and all that stuff, and I'm not going to get into the weeds. But like basically you have two contributors, and one of them just, there's not a lot of that DNA in that mixture, but it's there. And StarMix is able to actually opine on mixtures better than like real humans can. And that's why StarMix exists. But, you know, it was brought up that like StarMix doesn't give you a yes and no answer. Well, random mass probabilities don't give you a yes or no answer anyway. DNA does not give you a yes or no. It basically says with an RMP that, you know, like in a hypothetical population of 1 million people, like I asked Dr. Wright, you would expect to find this profile one time. That's like how rare it is. So we look at sample 6-1-4-1, which is the right front shin of the genes. Right front shin is one of these samples over here. That was actually tested by the state police, and ultimately they generated one of those random mass probabilities. One of the ones I think they intimated are more accurate. I would submit to you that they're all accurate. It's DNA. You know, it's just DNA is DNA. It doesn't lie. It doesn't tell you where it came from or who put it there, but it doesn't lie. It's just that sometimes, given the amount of DNA in a particular area, because remember, we're talking about one of these little white cuttings, we're talking about a small area, because you don't just like throw the genes in a conveyor belt and it comes out and says, you know, this is all Sophia, this is all Jesse. You have to sample different parts of it. When we talk about Jesse's DNA, they said ultimately that Jesse's DNA, or Jesse was the source of the DNA on the right front shin of these genes. And when you talk about how rare that is, right, that's really what they're trying to tell you when they give you that answer. They said that he was the source. And what they need to call something the source from their protocol, their their standard operating procedures and analytical thresholds and things like that, is that the RMP has to be greater than 1 in 7 trillion. So in a population of 7 trillion people, which is actually a lot bigger than the amount of people that have ever walked the face of the earth, you would expect to find that profile once. Jesse's DNA, Paul Caneiro's genes. Now, we talked about a scraping from the inside collar of a shirt, one of the shirts that's in that pile. DNA profile is approximately 100 million times more likely to occur if H1 is true, which is basically that Paul Caneiro is contributor 1 to that sample. So, like I said, we learned quickly that Sophia, that Jesse was a little later, but we learned quickly that several areas on those genes had Sophia Caneiro's DNA. So that's quickly. So like that's, again, like before we start digging into finances and all that kind of stuff, we see his car leave, come back, and then they find, well, the dog hits, the cadaver dog, hits on the 7 human grenades, and lo and behold, the state police tells us, that's Sophia Caneiro's voice. Follow the evidence. Same way they told us early on that her DNA was on the handle, which tells you that that's the knife that was thrust into multiple areas of her body. So when we talked about some of the star mix evidence, some of the DNA that was tested by Bodie, we talk about sample. I think Dr. Reich in his PowerPoint, he had three samples he talked about. The first was E01A1, which is, I've said it many times, but it's the inside of the genes above the knee, right? It's kind of like wearing DNA. Like, you know, that's where you get things when you move, when you walk, in the shed. Now, when he talked about it, he was like pointing out different things, and I'm not sure why he chose that sample, because it's very probative, A, and B, it's extremely conclusive. But what he didn't tell you is that contributor 1 was Sophia Caneiro with a likelihood ratio of 470 sextillion. That number doesn't just come out of the blue. That's science.
Just fades into silence in that spot.
2 was Paul Caneiro with a likelihood ratio of 3.7 quintillion. And when I asked Dr. Reich on cross-examination, are those reliable results? Sophia's results and the likelihood ratio, Paul Caneiro's results and the likelihood ratio. Is that reliable? And he said, yes. E01C1, another area on the genes. This is the exterior front right thigh. So up here, Sophia Caneiro, single source right here. He was saying, oh, you know, you could do a random match probability. I guess you could. But I think he said that the number would actually probably, interestingly he said that. He said if you did a random match probability on that number, 2.1 septillion, I think basically what he said is that it should be about the same, i.e. they're both pretty accurate. And that likelihood ratio is 2.1 septillion. Again, all numbers, when we put them in context, are bigger than the amount of people that are on the earth today, 8 billion we heard, and the number forever is about 100 billion. Again, Dr. Reich, this is reliable. I asked him specifically, is that a reliable result? Yes. E02B1, interior of glove 1. Now, I know we saw the 6 gloves. Contributor 1, Sophia Caneiro. LR of 1 septillion. Dr. Reich, that's okay. That's reliable, right? Nothing wrong with that. E03A1, glove 2, exterior, contributor 1, 59%. Likelihood ratio of 100 quadrillion. Then we got to contributor 2, Paul Caneiro, 41%. LR of 45 quadrillion. That's actually like not, it's kind of like it's not an equal, it's not a 50-50 mixture, but like it's more Sophia, but there's a lot of Paul in there, right? And Dr. Reich, when asked by me, said, those conclusions are reliable. It's their expert saying that. E03B1, glove, interior, and they acknowledge, I think all the DNA people acknowledge that, like, we don't necessarily know which is the inside, which is the outside of those gloves. Like, it's just kind of impossible to tell. It's the way they came to it. However they got the glove, they treated the exterior as the exterior, interiors, interior. But quite frankly, there's results on those gloves from interiors and exteriors that are very probative. So I would submit to you that, like, he gloved up. He gloved up. You saw it on the video. He gloved up because he didn't want to leave anything. Now the car's so clean. Sophia, 97% of that mixture, 986 tillion. Dr. Reich says there's nothing wrong with that result. Glove 4 exterior, Sophia Caneiro, 94%. LR of 726 sextillion. Nothing wrong with that result. Glove 5, Sophia Caneiro, you get the point. 870 sextillion. I mean, a bunch of this stuff went out together. Probably didn't need to test all these areas of all these gloves. But I mean, consistently, you're finding that Sophia Caneiro's blood is on these jeans. EO6B1 at the glove. And here we see contributor 1 this time, 58%, is Paul Caneiro with an LR of 49 billion. Sophia Caneiro, 42%, 19 quadrillion. No issue with either result from Dr. Reich, who was asked by, who was testifying on behalf. E10A, this is a swab from the lower kitchen cabinet. This is one of the ones we talked about. This is the one where it's Jesse's blood at the bottom, and Sophia is down there clearly bleeding in the kitchen, but not where she was found dead. Not dead. But the two of them contribute to the blood on that lower cabinet. It's telling in that these are extremely probative DNA results. They're very reliable based upon the testimony that you heard from even their expert. But it's very probative, like, what the hell was happening in the dark in the kitchen. E11, this is a underneath the pull-out drawer near the sink, Sophia's DNA. The E12B, this was actually early DNA. This was like before we went to Bodie. And when we looked at that scarf, ultimately you saw the testimony that there was a bunch of defects in the scarf. And there was also, I think, 3 hairs. When you look at defects here, it's hard to tell a little bit, but there's some holes in here, which are consistent with knives. Like the blade of a knife, maybe holding the scarf around your hand, the gloves, because at some point this scarf is in Colt's neck, and at some point this scarf ends up with strands of hair, longer strands of hair from a late 8-year-old Sophia Caneiro. And when they tested this, the random max probability, meaning in a population of 14 octillion people, you would expect to find that DNA profile one time. E13 was, well, that was a scraping. Let me be clear, just so the record's clear. That was a scraping of the scarf. Once they took the hairs off, they scraped it to try to get a cross section of, see if they get any DNA off it. And ultimately, what they came up with on that was Sophia Caneiro. That was the 1 in 14 octillion. The hairs, we have E13, E14. They're 2 hairs, and the results in a population of 4.1 octillion or 34 sextillion, you would expect to find that one time. We talked about 61-4-1. That's Jesse's DNA. Dr. Reich says that's reliable. This is what we look at. We're looking at the Bodie chart. And, you know, I think there was one sample that I asked them about Mr. Caneiro's DNA, and it was the one time he tried to kind of, I'm not sure if that's reliable, I'm not sure. And then I showed him a transcript, and we kind of resolved that he has said in the past that that is reliable. Their DNA expert concedes Sophia's DNA is on the jeans, it's on the scarf with defects, it's on the glove. All items from the defendant's basement. They're all reliable according to the defense DNA expert. He concedes Paul's DNA inside the jeans, we talked about it. and on 3 different nitrile gloves, black nitrile gloves, just like the one seen on the hand in the video at 235 to 251 outside 15 Willowbrook next to the electrical panel. He says those LRs of 45 quadrillion, 200 million, and 49 billion are reliable results. You can see it's Jesse's DNA. So what we know is that Jesse, Sophia, and Paul all contributed to DNA on the jeans. Sophia's DNA is on the scarf, hair. Sophia and Paul on the gloves. This was played for you during the course of trial. It's Paul Caneiro having a conversation with the office manager, and it kind of relates to partially.
Tell her, please. I never needed her any more than I need her now.
I know, and it really, you know, the stability was not really the main thing. It was, you know, the fear.
Tell her, don't worry about it. They got what they wanted. I'm here.
So, in December of 2018, after he's charged, he's trying to get a former employee to come back and run the business. That's what he's worried about on December 5th, 2018, despite the fact that he's facing murder charges. His brother's dead, sister-in-law, Jesse and Sophia. But what Tiffany's saying on that phone call is that Larissa, the other employee, doesn't want to come back because she's scared. And what Mr. Caneiro says is, there's nothing to be scared of. I'm here. Doesn't say, because you heard some testimony that like Corey worked with the business to try to keep it running after the fact. Doesn't say. What he doesn't say is kind of telling, and it's kind of probative of really who did this. It's a little thing again, but he doesn't say like, be careful, Corey's showing up at the business. Like, that's what you got to worry about. He's saying, don't worry, there's nothing to be afraid of. Because they're worried that like someone's out there. Keith's dead, Paul had a fire. They don't know the whole story yet. Nobody does, because we're still working on it. Don't be afraid of Corey, who's at the business every day. They got what they wanted. I'm here. Again, this comes back to, because that was December 5th, so we're in the midst of the investigation. Because like I said, this stuff it doesn't appear. Okay? This is effort. This is investigation. This is seizing items and sending them places to get tested to try to see. You don't know what you're going to find when you send ballistics to the ballistics lab. You don't know what the answer is going to be. You don't know what the DNA people are going to tell you. So you're in the midst of that. But then when you start to get those results, does it tell you anything other than Paul Caneiro did this? Yeah, this is just something I wanted to show because we talked about it earlier, but when you look at the rear and where the fire started, right in here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just the context of what Dr. Gould's camera is showing you. Just so you can understand that, like, you did see the origin of the fire. You did see when it started. And you might have missed the very beginning of this, you know, the lighting. Obviously, it was. I wish it was that light. Maybe you would have saw someone walk across. But it was dark out because it's 5 o'clock in the morning. This is the fire. This is the point of origin. The DNA is right inside there. And this line right here, if I had the picture, you'll have it, but John Lightbody, who did the origin of cause, he testified about a picture that's in this living room over here, right here. And you could see there was some like crown molding. It's kind of like up here. It's like some crown molding here. And there's like a, just like this, there's almost like a pillar when you transition from the family room to the dining room. And Lightbody said, yeah, right here you can see. this is where the fire was going, right? And it kind of got knocked down. But like, if this fire doesn't get knocked down, like, it's already in the basement. You can see down here, it's below ground. I mean, it's trying to hit that evidence, right? It's really trying to destroy that DNA. Just did it. I mean, I don't know if the fire could have eventually destroyed the guns too. I mean, maybe we would have gotten that evidence, but it's pretty easy. That fire keeps going to destroy genes. I mean, look at what it did to it. Look at what it caused. It caused that, and then it caused that over here, what we talked about yesterday, with the rest of the genes. We talked about this yesterday, but it's just like things that are brought up, and then all of a sudden, like, we give you some context, like Lieutenant Petrozello testifying about how, like, yeah, we did check that camera. Like, you know, it was always like, you guys didn't check this, you guys didn't check that. Then all of a sudden, it's like he testified, he's like, no, it's not like a Willowbrook address or like a, whatever, drawing a blank on Dr. Volstein's street, but just to the left. But the house back behind Willowbrook, like up in the back, it's actually, the address is actually Route 34, because that's how close Route 34 is. And ultimately, talk about cameras, but the car that you see in Colts Neck before, on its way,
chasing the squirrel.
Like, we know what direction that's going, right? We know that. I would suggest that based upon this and even the timeline they're trying to offer to you, that that's the Macan. So, like, I'm not sure why, even though they did check cameras on Route 34 and other places. However, you know, in the middle of the night, it's not always that easy on Route 18 to see what kind of car it is driving through a particular location. But I think the testimony stands on its own. But the point being is that he did look, right? That is a relevant camera. That camera, had it been closer to 15 Willowbrook, I mean, they're big properties, so it's kind of like a little different than, you know, Mr. Caneiro's property and the Oxford. Very nice houses, right? Nice pieces of property, but they're closer. So the cameras are going to be more probative. But here, I mean, it would have been great if we saw the car park. I mean, it would have been the McCann. But, like, he parked over there for a reason. He wasn't trying to be on camera. Like, he may go to Keith's house a lot, but he doesn't necessarily ever contemplate the idea that, like, Catherine Lucchese across the street has cameras. I mean, that's a big property, too. Pretty set back, and that's obviously why the footage is kind of had to be pieced together by virtue of, like, tail lights and different things. And timing, because it makes sense, and that's his car. We talked about the phone. I mean, just the reality, and I don't know, I said it yesterday, but I'll say it very briefly again. But
he checks his watch.
I don't understand exactly how the phone does anything to tell you that all the evidence that points to Mr. Caneiro does anything other than point to Mr. Caneiro and prove that he's guilty. But again, just the context of what
Bradley, thank you. 11 months.
I mentioned before, like, we don't know
if
maybe she even went outside and got chased in. We don't really know because the cameras were cut, the power was cut. But whatever happened, ultimately, she was killed inside. She was shot. She was stabbed. Just like her son, her daughter were stabbed. So I said this yesterday, but obviously there's some reason for concern. She's going to leave her bedroom. She's going to do it quickly. Whether Keith's gone trying to figure out the power, she hears the gunshots, whatever the case may be. She's not necessarily grabbing her phone and calling 911. I mean, obviously there's a lot of chaos going on. Clearly didn't sound like there was a lot of time to react. Maybe she's just more worried about trying to protect Jesse, trying to protect Sophia. Maybe her instinct was just to help, and that her phone's upstairs, and that she's got a gun pointed at her, got a bullet that's about to be in her brain. Because this is what's going on. This is Jennifer's body. Remember when before the detectives, they wanted to protect the integrity of the scene and the investigation, and Detective Cordoma, Detective Vogt, and Lieutenant Mueller go in and take the body out, and Detective Flanagan, who took a lot of the photos, Detective Cordoma told you, he took a lot of the early photos. He was like the first guy there from forensic, and you could see the depths of the fire in the back of the house. Like, you got a real sense, which Cordoma said was very helpful, seeing the track, the path, and the evolution of the fire was very important to where it started, because it wasn't always a certainty where it started. I think it started in that cedar closet. I didn't put the video in here, but one of the interesting things that you can see from Patrolman Mazzicola, his NVR, his camera, and his police car. Remember, he pulls up to the front of the house, and there's a point in time his camera's just running, where he goes over to where Keith is, and Dr. Bolstein's over there, and then another officer comes, and Mazzicola and Miyakawa, the two officers, they go around the side, because that door is open. Remember, kind of where that one live round is found, on that southwest patio, there's an open door, and they find that door open, right? I think I said it yesterday. And obviously they looked at that area to see if there's any fingerprints or anything, but that's kind of the way he went out. And that's probably just about the best way to get out when you're trying to get to your car. You're trying to do it quickly. But on that, once Mazzicola and Miyakawa, the other officer, they go around, you can actually see, first you see Dr. Volstein open that door and smoke. And then they actually open the camera, the door where the camera would have shown them opening the door, but the power was cut at 2:52. But Mazzicola opens it and you see the smoke come out by the garage. But during the course of that body-worn camera footage, one of the guys, his name's Sergeant Savage, walks across the front while the other officers are over on the side. And when you look at the front of the house, all of a sudden, for the first time during during that body-worn, there's a little area on the bottom of the house where you see the flame. And it's to the left of the door. It's real low. It's the first time you see any flames. All you saw was smoke in the front of the house. Flames were in the back. But that was exactly where the fire had eventually pierced that cedar closet. Because it's coming up and out, and it's just right there on the bottom. It just tells you visually that origin, was right. The area of origin being the cedar closet, because that's exactly where it would have been. You saw the floor plans and the surveys. So it's just interesting to know. So again, we're just talking about what's going on. Why maybe she didn't take her phone. I'm not going to. You saw what you saw. This is just an X-ray which just shows, obviously confirming gunshot wounds to the head of Jennifer Caneiro. That's all I can show you. That's all you need to see. Just talking about that blood. This is the foyer. What's going on in that house at 3:30 in the morning? Sophia running into the kitchen. Then we got Jesse, right, coming around to where he's ultimately going to take his last smoke-filled breaths. And we got, this is the one where it's Jesse and Sophia. Who would have thought? Just think about, Sophia's in the kitchen and she's already bleeding. So she's already been attacked. But she's there, and there's only really one way to look at it. You can judge for yourself, for sure. She's got to be, checking on her brother. But then she runs out of the kitchen, up the stairs, onto the landing. And that's where Carmelo Lamarco, the firefighter, ultimately found her. That's what Zane told you, that, she was left alive. 49% carboxyhemoglobin. Kind of a man. And then lastly, this is probably, we can't say conclusively, Cordoma kind of explained it as best you could, but you see the swipes and all that, he told you about that, but this is now going east in the house towards where you exit the kitchen and you go up the stairs, and she would have passed her mom lying there on the ground. Her mom ultimately suffered fatal injuries so that she didn't inhale smoke. Jesse did. Sophia did to another level. This is the wound to Jesse's chin that we talked about. And you know there's just, I didn't show you the picture, but you'll have all the pictures, but you know that right in that area, the kitchen, the islands here, kitchen cabinets are here, right over here is like the windows. They find a projectile right here. Remember, they found a casing over by Jennifer, by the stairs. This is, I'm not going to show you anymore. This is just showing you the sharp force injuries through her shirt. I think she was wearing like shirt and like underwear, obviously sleepwear. I'm not going to show you any other photos. You saw what you needed to see. It's horrific. But the reality is, we all know it's horrific. Cause and manner of death is part of any murder case. You have an obligation to prove cause and manner of death beyond a reasonable doubt, like every other element. But at the end of the day, the question becomes, who did, right? Did. And at the end of the day, beyond a reasonable doubt, but beyond any doubt, the person responsible for inflicting those minutes, moments of terror in the dark upon children that trusted him, God only knows what they were saying to him. Paul Caneiro. Just the hair on the scarf. And when you talk about the injury, like, the only evidence of injury at 27 Tilby, only evidence of injury upon that house or in that house, despite the testimony from Caitlin Caneiro, was really just that one area of blood, which was swabbed, and it was actually the firefighter. And I don't know if it was on the... He was being treated at the scene, but obviously it was confirmed that Sean Edson, the firefighter, hit his hand, or cut his hand, or whatever it was, on the doorway, or hit it up, or rubbed it on the doorway at some point to cause the blood, which was his. But let's talk about that.
Thank you very much.
Like
Chris in Auburn. Sorry, Chris in Auburn.
He told the police he injured his hand. So I mean, I don't think, to be honest with you, I'm not sure he really could have hid that from the police being there at the police station and outside for a lot of the day. I don't think he really could have hid it. So he told them that. But then in trial, all of a sudden, kind of like his daughter, who didn't tell the police this. I mean, Miss Wallace asked her that. Says that she was actually like heard something. She didn't see it. She didn't see her dad hit his hand, but he was behind her as they're going down the stairs trying to get out of the house, and he said, "Fuck, my hand," or something to that effect. I would suggest that like not wearing shoes, shutting off the cameras and all that kind of stuff. That's just like just trying to come up with an excuse for an injury that is entirely consistent with bludgeoning. 3 people inside a house. About an hour earlier. I would suggest to you that when you look at all of the evidence, all the stuff we talked about, that injury happened in Goldsmith. Sophia's injury, I mean, you heard, there's 17. I'm not going to run through them. There's really no reason. You saw a couple photos, that's really what you could see. But we're talking about all over the body. But I think when we talk about this, we have to put into context that DNA again with Jesse and Sophia. And the fact that, like, Jesse never left the kitchen. He's bleeding there. He never left there. He died there. Sophia's bleeding. She leaves there. And Dr. Zane told you about all those injuries that were consistent with defensive wounds. It was like, it was in a report and he testified to it. He said injuries, like he listed like 6 or 7 of the 17 sharp force injuries that he believed, and you saw the leg and hands and shit, forearm and all that kind of stuff But like, that little girl fought. I mean, nothing else I can say. That little girl fought. Again, I'm not going to show you photos because I'm not going to do that to you. You know? But like, this is just like Dr. Zhang, like notes of just, what else can you say other than how much writing is on that chart, that diagram? I mean, you don't need to see blood, you don't need to see cuts. It's just, look at the writing. It doesn't even matter what it says, it's just a lot of writing. I won't say it again. You know that 49%, you know what Dr. Zhang said it meant. Michael Abraham, the guy from the ATF, the electrical engineer, he told you about the Verizon OT line. He told you about the generator. He told you about the... He was brought in because he's an expert. He's an electrician who worked for the ATF. And ultimately, he assisted with determining, what the power meant in conjunction with the fire. And ultimately, what he determined was that there was no power. The home was de-energized at the time of the fire because he cut all the power. And he cut all the cameras. This is the Verizon ONT line, which was cut. I'm sure you remember that. This is a line that was purposely and knowingly cut so that no help would come. No smoke alarm would be triggered. No alerts to the outside world. This is what we have. This is the shell casing. This is the live round. No, sorry, this is shell casing. Shell casing. All Fiocchi, very rare ammunition. So rare, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of cross-examination about it. So rare that Sergeant Clayton said they have thousands of different types of ammunition at the state police. But they needed the prosecutor's office to bring them this, because I hope you understood it. But just because it's the same ammunition here in Colt's Neck and here in defendant's basement doesn't mean that that ammunition is going to mark the same in any gun. It's not going to be a match with any gun because it's the same ammunition. The point is, they want to use, Sergeant Clayton told you, they want to use like ammunition because it marks that. You want to use, he said, I think it said it's longer, right? But it's good to see the markings so that you can make very reliable and conclusive comparisons between items.
You want to use the same types of metal.
Ammunition that's rare enough that the state police didn't even have it. This is what they do every day. But Paul Caneiro has it. It's exactly what's found. Colt. This was brought up yesterday. Why would he use a knife if he had a gun? Now, I think I explained this morning, but I don't know that I can ever answer it. One of the things the judge will tell you is that, we can't get into the head of someone. You're going to be asked, and you're going to be read the law about state of mind, and that when you talk about murder, you're talking about purposely and knowingly, or purposely or knowingly causing death or serious bodily injury resulting in death. But one of the things the judge will tell you, I suspect, is that we can never get inside someone's head, right? So we don't know exactly why someone always does it. But I would suggest that when we talked about there was the southwest corner, there's a live round right by where that door was open, right? Now, that live round was ultimately compared to other shell casings that Clayton tested, and we'll get there almost now. And that round wasn't fired, it's a live round, so it kind of looks... basically this. It is this, same head stamp, but it was extracted from the same handgun as the other casings. So you match casings to the gun and bullets, fired bullets, to the barrel. But the extractor marks and the ejection marks were the same as all the other cartridges. So this round that was found right by where that door was found open in the back corner of the house, Mr. Caneiro probably went in and probably left. It's the same as all the other cartridge casing. And the reason why it's there, I asked Sergeant Clayton, is that really either there's a malfunction or he forgot that he racked the gun already and there's a bullet in the chamber. And so when he racks it again, it pops out. So it ejects, but it doesn't fire because he doesn't pull the trigger. So it's there. It's from the same gun. It's just another piece of ballistic evidence when you look at the numbers, because there's 6 shots outside. There's 2 shots that we know of in the house because we have a casing in one area, and then we have a bullet in the other in the kitchen. There's 1 round on the southwest, I think I said southeast, the southwest patio. And then we also later found, interestingly, we found out the state police actually told us these jeans, when they were sent for testing, and that pile was sent for testing. Ultimately, New Jersey State Police item 6-4 actually got like 6. I think it's the same number as the jeans, so they kind of like found that. Same head stamp, Yoki ammunition in the pile. I think where they found it was the pocket of the jeans, but your recollection will control. But it's another piece of ballistic evidence. Linking the guns to Paul Caneiro, the DNA to Paul Caneiro, ballistics and the DNA to Paul Caneiro. But again, we're talking about 10 shots. I mean, there could have been a 10-round magazine. Could have ran out. Could have been more than that. Could have missed Keith a couple times. They were never found because they would have flown out to Willowbrook. I don't know. But at some point, during that interaction with Jesse and Jennifer and Sophia, a knife is used. Just because he had a gun and a knife doesn't mean that it's anyone other than Paul Caneiro. So, when we talk about the state police ballistics, we first talk about 5 bullets.
He's talked for 5 hours total. 5 hours.
These 5 bullets. State police numbers 11, 12, 17, 20, and 26. Its evidence number is 302, 304, 309, 325, 331. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, what you heard from Chris Clayton, an expert in ballistics, is that any bullet that wasn't damaged enough or mutilated, like he testified, those ones that were found in the water, Jennifer's brain and Keith's brain, anything that was remotely intact, matched this barrel that was found in Keith's backpack, Paul's backpack.
That's the bar in front of the jury box. That's right in front of them.
Just so we realize, this is actually the live round from the southwest corner. Okay, this is the one that, although it wasn't fired, it matches all the projectiles, all the shell casings. So these bullets fired from this barrel found in Mr. Caneiro's backpack. Now we have 7 shell casings from Willowbrook. Exhibit S 305, 306, 307, 308, 311, 312, 326. All these casings. Well, first, let's just say that he was able to determine first that these bullets We're all firing from the same gun. You saw the pictures, right? It's basically pattern comparing, and we showed you the photos that show that the patterns match. And obviously, based upon his testimony, based upon his expertise, testifying, I think, 60-something times, he's been doing this for years, essentially. These bullets all matched each other. And then he drew a comparison of these projectiles, of these shell casings, and said they all match. Before he did the barrel and the gun. But ultimately, based upon test firing, comparison of test standards to the bullets, this barrel, off Caneiro's backpack, fired these bullets, caused the death of Keith Caneiro and Jennifer Caneiro. Remember, he swapped the barrel out, right? But ultimately, it is safe. We've said that a number of times at the gun line. So, obviously, this is something we treat with care. Okay?
Assess the day after while pointing at the judge.
Recovered from the defendant's basement in that locked gun storage locker. We treat it with care. We point it down and we make sure it's safe. Because at the end of the day, while it's lawful to possess this weapon legally, right? But this thing's a beast. You know, these have
what?
Lawful uses, certainly. People use them for sport and to practice, and that's fine.
Is he just giving a flat anti-gun argument here?
When you talk about matching shell casings from a crime scene where 4 people are murdered to this, you got to treat this with care because this thing takes lives. And this, and this, and these, and these, they're why we're here. That gun from his basement and that barrel from his backpack, separated carefully, meticulously, purposely, fired these bullets and expelled these shell casings. Somewhere between 3:26 and 3:30. And then he went into that house and he caused the rest of the carnage.
I'm afraid the jury's going to come back with a guilty verdict, and this attorney's going to think that his closing was good.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, that is, and this is, and this is, and this is, and this is, and his jeans are, and his shutting off the cameras, and all the footage we have of him leaving in the middle of the night, coming back in the middle of the night, 2 hours later. That is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We ask you, as jurors, to hold us to proving this case beyond a reasonable doubt. When we say reasonable, right? Like, you know, they may point out that this wasn't done or this wasn't done, but like, you also have to hold us to a reasonable standard as to like, what more can we give you? We gave you the gun, gave you the barrel, the projectiles, the bullets, the DNA. We showed you him shutting off his camera. Can't give you any more because he shut off the cameras.
The last slide said, "What more could we give you?"
The evidence in this case,
and now he's got more slides.
Murder doesn't make sense, but murder happened. Murder happened November 20th, 2018, in the darkness. And it happened 4 times. There's no way I could justify anything remotely resembling a good reason. But it happened. Talked about timeline, I promise. Just about time. Just want to close the loop with respect to the timeline. Okay, you talked about it, and I think the defense, Ms. Mastalone, I think it was with Lieutenant Petruzzello, we created a timeline and all that stuff, and I guess the idea was that, like, the timeline doesn't make sense, or there's not enough time to do this and not enough time to do that. Well, you'll have those timelines and evidence. They've been marked. I think Ms. Wallace then asked some follow-up questions, and we added some things. 3:50 is a phone call, first phone call. 6:05, Keith calls Paul the second time. 1:27 a.m., Paul plugs in his iPhone. Probably just after practicing with the laser light in that other 6 hour. 1:28, goes into the garage, shuts off his camera. We see the Cayenne, see what we would have seen. 1:31, he goes downstairs. Sorry. We see him here, right, and we see the gun locker. He's shutting off the cameras downstairs, making sure that you wouldn't be able to see him leaving the DNA and putting the gun back, swapping the barrel, et cetera, et cetera. And we get to the Porsche, clearly the Porsche Macan 207, leaving Tilden. 2:27, Porsche Macan, Willowbrook. 2:35, 2:51, the video we saw with the gloves and the hair. 2:52, the first alert from the Verizon, saying basically the Verizon box is not cut yet, but saying that power's cut to the area. Same way that camera, the Nest camera outside, said 2:52, right? Keith sends these text messages, 3:14 through 3:18. There's 4, but the last one says, really, it's not really a communication. It's a text message, but essentially, if you want to look at that as communication, that right here is the last thing that Keith Caneiro would ever say, and it's basically telling his brother he's going outside to check on the generator. Little did he know that when he got outside to check the generator, these and this were going to end his life. We know the Verizon line cuts at 3:42 per what they said. So there was also some testimony. I'm not going to belabor it. 6 minutes is there's no question it's enough time. But it could have actually been a little bit before 3:42. I think Mike Abraham said that Verizon pings the box every once in a while. I think he said every 30 seconds. So, I mean, it could have been 30 seconds earlier. Who knows if that's even accurate, if it registers right away. But the line's cut. The
might also
fire's
take
set,
multiple pings before
and
it
then
alerts.
he runs, like, look at the pictures. I mean, I skip the nearest bathroom and I go to the next bathroom. That's probably the distance of me running to get to that car, to get onto Willowbrook at 3:48 and 17 seconds. And then, ultimately, 4:08, Porsche Macan returns to Tilden. Paul's iPhone is unplugged. 4:54. The main fire starts at 4:57. Porsche Cayenne pulls out 27 feet. I think I skipped it. I could for 1 second.
Let me go back and make sure I hit everything. Oh my goodness. You get paid by the PowerPoint page?
Apologize. Almost done.
Quick huddle. What page did I miss? We're going to play another video.
Just going to go to my one slide. take you back for 1 second. Just camera 5. This is when the where the car pulls out. Then we have that garage fire. Can we shut off all the lights?
All the lights.
So, we know the car pulls out. Mr. Caneiro pulls the Cayenne out. About 5 o'clock. Just fast forward, because we know we got about a minute and a half till that fire starts. We're going to let it run now. About 5:51. And just, when I talked earlier, this is that light by the garage. One of like the sconces or wall-mounted lights to the garage. Just in the next little while, just want you to pay a little attention to some movement, some shadows in this area before the flash.
In what area? Stopped playing.
Now, we said that the people that were alleged to have been there at 4:30 wouldn't have still been there at 5:02, so you can't really make both arguments. But what we see here is about a minute and 30 seconds after Mr. Caneiro pulls the Cayenne out. It's been suggested that like someone else had to be there to set that fire. Now, I'd suggest to you that when you look at that, it's impossible to say that there wasn't someone there, i.e. Mr. Caneiro, who came out of the car and went back up there. It would have been as simple as we said. Like his family gets in the car, but like the wife went back inside. His daughter was calling 911. I don't know exactly when she got in the car. They all got in the car. There's no doubt about that. But like, what if he just pulls the car out into the street? And then whether the family's there yet or not, if they are, I forgot to shut the garage door. Boom, towards the freaking car. Because that's the car that you just used to kill everybody. Like, obviously, again, kind of a failed attempt at doing any damage to that car, but like, he either set that fire right before he pulled the car out and it just took a minute, or he went back up. I mean, that fire is not started. Because if you're talking about like someone else being there, Corey, whatever, man, if he's not there, he's sitting in the street. It's not like he's not there to see what happened. Like, that fire, ladies and gentlemen, is just another fire set by Mr. Caneiro. It's just another part of the entirety of this case. Okay? That video is obviously not clear enough to say conclusively, but I suggest that you see some movement in that area around that light and some shadows, and it just is not something that proves anything like someone else was there. No one told you that anyone was there. Paul Caneiro, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Caneiro. All of the evidence in this case, all of the ballistics, the DNA, the air ammunition, the hiding of the backpack, the hiding of the barrel, they're all shutting off the cameras. They're all just ways to try to hide the evidence. The evidence
Kelly,
that shows
thank you so much.
that he and he alone committed these crimes. You have video of him shutting off his cameras. You have video of him leaving at 2:07 and returning at 4:08. You have evidence to suggest that is certainly him outside of his brother's house. He had the barrel. The projectiles and the bullets from the scene matched the barrel that he separated from the gun and the gun. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the evidence doesn't lie. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try,
Sometimes the
explain it
evidence
away
doesn't lie.
or give alternative theories
Focus,
to why his
focus.
DNA or his wife, his
Low light.
his
It's
DNA
hard to focus.
is in his basement, and why someone would try to frame him but swap out the barrel. He's not the unluckiest man in the world, ladies and gentlemen. He's just guilty. He's just guilty. And that's simple. And one last thing I just really wanted to say, and the judge is going to read the law to you very
I
shortly.
can never finish.
He's the one who controls how you consider the facts of this case in relation to the law. And ultimately, he's going to give you, when you deliberate, you're going to get a verdict sheet. And this is just some questions that you're going to have to answer based upon all the time you spent here, all the attention you paid, the arguments of counsel, but most importantly, the evidence from the stand, the physical evidence. And you're going to have to answer some questions. They go a little something like this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, I promise. You're going to have to determine if the defendant is guilty.
Did somebody say good?
He purposely or knowingly caused the death of Keith Caneiro, for instance, or serious bodily injury resulting in death. Okay? That's the determination we need to make with respect to each victim. Then you're going to get some other questions on some of them. Kind of like, did he do it by his own hand? Meaning, did he do it? Okay? And then there's some other questions like, did he do it for money or with the children? You know, were they under the age of 14? You're going to answer some of these questions once you find him guilty of murder. And you're going to get some weapons charges. You're going to get the theft. You're going to get the misappropriation. The one thing is, with respect, so you understand, with respect to felony murder. Now, with felony murder, you just get Jesse and Sophia. And I just wanted you to understand that when we talk about felony murder, we talk about causing the death of the victim while in the course of committing a felony. Here, it's charged with the arson. And the reason why you have Sophia and Jesse and not Jennifer and Keith is because of that very fact that we know, based upon the testimony of Dr. Toma and Dr. Zhang, that like Sophia and Jesse were alive after the fire was set. So they were killed in the course of him setting fire to the house. Now, they're also victims of murder because they were purposely or knowingly killed by Mr. Caneiro. But I wanted you to understand that is really what we're talking about and why you just see them there as opposed to Keith, their father, and Jennifer, their mother. Ladies and gentlemen,
Big finish. Here we go. Got the water.
I know that this is an emotional process. Just on behalf of Ms. Wallace, just want you to know that we appreciate the time that you've all devoted to this. I'm sure the defense does too. I'm not trying to grandstand here. But we do appreciate the time, the attention, how you showed up. Sorry if there were delays at times. It could have been our fault. Who knows? But when we talk about justice and we talk about things like reasonable doubt and presumption of innocence and things like that, just remember that like we get held to a very high standard, and that's the way it should be. Okay, we're the state. We have to prove. We have to convince you that this man committed murders, felony murder, weapons charge. We have to do it beyond a reasonable doubt. And that reasonable word is just kind of important because we have proven it to you beyond a reasonable doubt. The DNA, the ballistics, the cameras, all the other testimony, all the little things, like showing you he wasn't set up, showing you that that was just another way to try to deceive. I would argue to you that the evidence will not deceive you. It will take you to a place where you will go back into that room and you will decide amongst yourselves that this man, contrary to a lot of things you may have heard about him, this man, on November 20th, 2018, Colts Neck, New Jersey, Killed his brother, sister-in-law, 11-year-old nephew, and his 8-year-old niece. Ladies and gentlemen, one final time, we appreciate your time. The only just verdict in this case, the only one that follows the evidence, is that Mr. Caneiro is guilty of all these crimes. Thank you.
Nearly 5.5 hours later.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long morning. The next part of the process is going to be the charge.
Which is relatively short comparatively.
That takes a little bit of time to do because I have to explain it all to you. So what I think I'm going to do, because it's noon, I'm going to give you a longer lunch just to give you a little bit of time to kind of stretch out, clear your head. We'll come back right at 1:30 and we'll move right into the charge. And at that point in time, I'll give you a little bit more information, but we're not going to do anything until then. You guys are going to remember what I'm about to say. We all know, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you've now heard the summations. You have not heard my charge. You have not heard the law in this case. You cannot discuss this case. You got an hour and a half having lunch together. Don't do it. You cannot do it. You just have to have your lunch, relax, do whatever you need to do. Come back up. I will give you the law. You get to finally learn about this system of who's the alternates and how fun that is to figure that out. And then you'll start your deliberations in that room only. All right, so everybody have a good lunch. Mr. Decker, if you can move that. And I'll see everybody right at 1:30.
All right. It's safe to take your earplugs out now. You guys, we are done with closings. We are going to lunch. Hold tight for just a minute. We're also going to portal over to Greener's. Greener's just proving that he can still win by not winning. Saying not it. We do have the new live stream set up. We're going to portal over to it. We're going to be back at 1:15. That is a little bit longer lunch. That gives us an hour and 10 or so after we do the wrap up and the music and all that. It's over. I'll say it again. I'm really concerned that this jury is going to come back and convict Paul, and the defense, and the prosecution will look at this closing and say it's because of the closing. it's because I was so thorough. It's because I covered everything so well. That's the only reason why. Please, somebody let them know that's not the case. The evidence alone. When he got up and showed that slide, basically, what more do you need to see? He could have started his closing there and hit most of the high points in his little quick recap summation and been perfect. Oh, man. Judge. We're going to do a poll.
Is there anything we need to put on the record?
We're going to do a poll when we come back.
With respect to the PowerPoints, you want to mark copies of those as C exhibits or?
Not C's, but there will be the next S exhibit or an S exhibit for you and a D exhibit for the defense. And while that won't go into the jury, it will be secured and be a part of the overall record in this case. Anybody have anything else for now? Yeah, sure.
Can we actually approach Judge? I'd like to go a little rebuttal if I could. I've made a new PowerPoint. It has more pages than the last one. This attorney, to cap it off, asked the judge to add his perfect PowerPoint presentation to the record. Preserve it for posterity. Oh, my goodness. I think the judge is about to change his career. No, the judge likes it. The judge was actually following along intensely through all the closings, maintaining eye contact, like almost piercingly throughout this. But all right, we do have the portal set up. I want to see how long the sidebar lasts. It shouldn't be a long one. You're filing an objection about something they said in the closing. Maybe. Preserve it for the record. It's a little late now. They get a lot of latitude in closings to say what they want to say and build the argument the way they want to build it. I think she's upset because the state in their closing presented possible solutions, possible storylines for how the Porsche could have been lit on fire, which we never heard. Not in openings and not in evidence from anyone else, but they just inserted it. It could have been this way, which I think was a terrible mistake. They really should not have gone there. They should not have even addressed that at all. Why bring up, well, it could have been this way, especially when you do it on the fly in front of the jury in summation. There's nothing to support that's the way it happened, and there might be things to support that's not the way it happened. And you don't want to be introducing doubt right before the jury goes out to deliberate. So, all right. What time is sentencing in the nanny tomorrow? I don't know, but we'll take a look at that. I think we are going to follow that if we can. Wait, the Porsche burned? Yes. Why am I getting weather notifications? What is going on? What's with the weather these days, people? Trying to figure out what's going to happen over the next couple days. Map, daily. Let's see, 7-day forecast has me at 70 degrees in 7 days, so I'm not complaining. That's good. I'll take it. How long was closing? I had 5 hours and 24 minutes was my count, but I might have been off by a little bit. That was just for the prosecution. The defense had 2 hours and the defense had 3 hours and 30 minutes. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was 9 hours long, all combined. 9 hours long. Felt like 8 hours just for pros. Yeah. Man. Decision by the end of the day. I hope so. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. We're going to go to lunch. We've got about an hour to eat your lunch. I think Mrs. R.A.'s here, and maybe she wants me to get her some food, I think. After I took our daughter out for breakfast, I think Mrs. R's like, hey, where's my turn? Sorry, it was a daddy-daughter date. She hadn't been to a restaurant before, so I had to make that right. All right, we're going to be back here in a little bit. I think the jury will take less time than the state or the prosecution took in their closings. That would give us a verdict today. I think it could happen. Depends a lot on a couple things. We're going to hear it from the judge when we come back. The judge is going to give instructions to the jury about how to deliberate and the process of either the foreman being selected or them selecting their own foreman, and then what they should do. And sometimes they give an instruction that says, don't go back there and just immediately do a straw poll. Don't just everyone get your opinion out there. First, go back there and just start at the beginning and look at all the evidence. If he says that, Monday. I'm saying a Monday verdict. If he says, all right, you've heard all the evidence, you guys can make the decision, talk amongst yourselves, ready, set, go. I say we get one tonight, probably to interrupt the podcast. All right, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again in, oops, wrong button, in an hour. In an hour, we'll be right back here. Portal will take you there. Buckle up. I do have to say, this morning I watched a little short video from a girl who was, she has cerebral palsy. I said that wrong, but she has CP and is in a wheelchair. And she just got the news from her doctor that although she's been in physical therapy and working so hard at trying to walk with a walker, her doctor gave her instructions that she's not supposed to walk and she won't be walking ever again. And she shared and she said, I'm just glad that when I was able to walk, I was able to take a few steps with my friend. That changed me a little bit today. I hope that changes you as well. We'll see you after lunch.